in San Bernardino, California. His first major film role in Lilith.
All right, Popeye's here.
Hackman's breakout role in 1971's The French Connection earned him his first Academy Award.
As Fox's Brian Yennes, Gene Hackman won another Oscar for his role in Unforgiven. Hamas has handed over the bodies of the last 4 hostages to be released in phase 1 of the ceasefire in Gaza in exchange for more than 600 Palestinian prisoners. The swap hours after the funeral in Israel for Sherry Bibas and her 2 young children killed in Hamas captivity after the 2023 terror attack. Their remains released last week.
The burial was private but moving. Sherry and her sons buried in the same coffin because it was said she always protected them. Husband and father Yarden Bibas, who survived captivity, saying to his deceased family, "This is the closest I've been to you since October 7. I can't kiss or hug you. It's breaking me."
Fox's Greg Palcott in Tel Aviv. President Trump will host Britain's leader at the White House today for talks on ending the war in Ukraine.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arrived in Washington. Last week, he said he was willing to deploy peacekeepers to Ukraine and boost defense spending. Now he wants a U.S. security guarantee to deter Russia.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. Tomorrow, President Trump will host Ukraine's leader at the White House for talks. America's listening to Fox News.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. But don't just take our word for it. Here's Jackie and Veronica, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular.
Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Just call or click to see how much you can save today. Because when it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit ConsumerCellular.com. That's 1-888-FREEDOM or ConsumerCellular.com today. Real people paid to share their opinions in this ad. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
The Morning Extra, only on Extra 106.3.
Morning, y'all. It is Thursday, and you can stand on your tippy toes to see the weekend, but we start the show with such sad news. Gene Hackman has passed. And it's crazy how it all came down to, he's 95, and Los and I were just talking about this. I mean, he's 95.
He's 95. This was coming, but not in the way that it occurred.
Yeah, he and his wife and his dog found dead in their Santa Fe home. They've already said, you probably heard in that Fox News update, they don't expect foul play. And you and Jure, our new board op Jure, who's taken the place of Joe Virgin River, said the exact same thing. It sounds like carbon monoxide.
That's pretty typical when the police look into it and say there's 2 dead in the home and the pet, and there's no foul play suspected.
Yeah, it just seems logical.
Some sort of poison issue.
Gosh, it's so sad, though. And you start thinking about all the movies that Gene Hackman's been in. One of my favorite of all time, Hoosiers, of course.
Love it.
And I just looked it up, and I just did a quick Gene Hackman movies just to recycle my brain, right?
How many did you go through?
A bunch. I think probably it's just a quick list, and it says here the best of they list 30. The best of his movies, and they had but the disappointing thing is they had Hoosiers down at like 25 out of 30. I'm like, what?
Well, that was a movie. If you know kind of the backstory, he thought it was going to be terrible. He didn't think this was going to be a movie that was going to make any sense and it was going to do anything. And so, the story goes that he's stewing on the set the whole time of, seriously, I'm Gene Hackman and I'm making some high school basketball movie
that turned out to be this
classic
that even it's funny because I didn't know that story. It's funny that somebody with that great a skill set, that
he's
great
an
of
Oscar
ability,
award winner doing a high school basketball movie.
But think about it, the fact that just what you're saying, the fact that he's an Oscar winner, and he doesn't even realize the brilliance of what's being done around him, that he even questioned it. And then when it's done, you're like, oh my heavens, this is a movie I've seen 10,000 times. And my son Jacob still to this day watches it, I don't know, probably once or twice a year.
Oh, if it's on?
It's on, you're watching it. Yeah.
I'm locked in. It drags me every time.
They're showing Jimmy Chitwood right now on Fox News Channel.
What's the matter with you guys?
Yes.
I'll make it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can I admit something?
Yes.
I've never seen Hoosiers.
You've never seen Hoosiers?
I've never seen Miracle either. I got a lot of holes in my movie.
Oh.
I've never seen Miracle. I've seen bits and pieces where Laura, my wife Laura, my son Jacob were watching it one time, and I've never seen it all the way through.
All right, I can sell.
But I know the story.
I can sell this to you like this, Jera. Milan, Indiana. That's the actual name of the real high school, and this was back when Indiana their tournament play for high school basketball was wide open, so there was no such thing as like 1A, 2A, 5A.
Okay.
Every school played each other. They were an enrollment of like 55 kids, and they rolled through the Indiana playoffs. And so it's kind of the story. Now they changed the name to Hickory High School, but it's based on that 1950s team that had to play all the big boys. And it's just a really cool movie to watch.
Dude,
I think I got to put it on this weekend.
I'm telling you, I'm going to put it on this weekend. And we were traveling to see my son Jacob play baseball, but when the night's winding down and, after dinner and we're able to pat him on the back and tell him we love him and go back to the hotel, my wife will fall asleep, and I'll be watching Hoosiers on my phone.
Well,
I can guarantee you that's going to happen.
I will go watch Unforgiven. Because I mean, that movie is such a classic, wonderful movie.
Good.
And then if you want the good guy who's kind of the bad guy, who's still kind of the good guy, man, Crimson Tide is like the most just 90 minutes of just nervous action.
Dude, you took the words right out of my mouth. He's the first officer. You got the trigger-happy captain, I
mean, he is sitting there as the opposite of Denzel Washington, and Denzel plays he's the guy who kind of has the forward-looking view of the world and what happens if nuclear war goes off, and you have Gene Hackman as the captain of the ship, and there's a mutiny going on both sides. It's just an outstanding movie. So well done.
And those are two of my favorite actors of all time.
I love it.
Denzel Washington is probably my favorite actor of all time. But Gene Hackman is, if it were a Kentucky Derby, it'd be neck and neck.
Well, how legendary are you that you have a movie history where if you watched him during the 70s, you said, okay, great actor, here's why he won an Oscar. And it rolls all the way through until maybe the last 15 years when he finally throttled everything back and just said, I'm just going to retire.
Yeah. Dude, legend, an absolute legend. So we mourn the loss this morning of Gene Hackman. Tug and Los, along with Jeray on the board, 404-741-1230. Anything that you'd like to bring up? I love hearing how movies and music and things relate to people and what they mean to you. And why they mean something to you. Like Hoosiers, I grew up watching it with my dad, right? And then me and my son watched it. So it was one of those generational things. So if there's something like that with you, with Gene Hackman, 404-741-1230, share it this morning.
Well, when I was a child, my favorite movie was Superman. So all the Superman movies.
And obviously, he was in, 3 of those?
And I get to see him as the primary villain, as Lex Luthor. Yeah, Gene Hackman to me, man.
Oh my gosh.
Another sneaky good one was Enemy of the State.
Yes, that's another fun movie with him and Will Smith. And just the idea of he's the former intelligence official who as he's retired, has decided, I know they're looking at us all the time. And so he's like ultra cautious, and he ends up in that crazy movie of espionage.
I feel like I've seen that, but I don't remember. I remember the story and I remember the characters being in there, but I don't remember a lot about it. So I don't know if I've seen that. I think I've seen that, but I'm not 100%.
It's fun. It's a fun movie.
Yeah. It's Enemy of the State, especially with the things that are happening in the world right now.
I'm telling you, being ahead of its time in the surveillance state and what the government is actually able to do to regular citizens. It was a warning. It was hey, just be aware they can do this to you if they choose to.
Art imitating life or life imitating art is always the question, right?
Speaking of surveillance.
Yes, no kidding.
All right, so last night we also got the news from Pam Bondi that there will be a release of Epstein files today.
Yes, there will. And she said it will be...
Speaking of espionage.
Today. She said it's sitting on her desk. And...
Here we go.
Oh, my gosh. What are the... I don't even know where. I don't even really know where to begin because your immediate thought is, okay, who's on the list? Who's on the the flight log? Who was involved in this? Who was okay with this? Who helped him? It's gross. It's alarming. It's disturbing, but it's almost like a bad wreck that you can't turn your head away from.
The question becomes, how quickly, if your name shows up on the list, are you trying to explain why you're on the list? Because I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt.
You're better than I.
He was conducting legitimate business along with very illegitimate and ugly business. And so which one do you happen to fall in that you had an association with him?
But it's like a spider web
to
me, because if you're doing one, he's trying to drag you. Now, I'm not saying that everybody fell into the trap or the web from his legitimate business, but I think the legitimate business was, how do I get these people involved in the other side?
I believe as well. And if you were just to listen to, let's say, the stuff that we know to be true, for instance, Bill and Melinda Gates. All right, she divorced him in part because of his association with Epstein. I mean, that was public. She put that out in a magazine. She said that. We know that they trafficked in underage girls and they were used and abused sexually on that island. So it does make you wonder, who is he doing this for? Was it for an intelligence agency? Was it for himself? You know, there's a lot of angles here.
Did one turn into the other, or could it be both? Definitely. The whole honeypot thing, because we know now that James Comey.
Yes, he's tied up in this too.
He's tied up in it.
He's tied up in a honeypot discussion.
Right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so that's also another story of this, was that you now have James Comey, the former director with the FBI. They're going to be looking into what exactly did the FBI do operationally in 2015, 2016 to get access to the Donald Trump campaign. And what the discussion point has been was that they did use female FBI assets as honeypots to get access. So that's a fishing expedition.
And it's funny because I saw a clip this morning, and it was from Jesse Waters' show last night, and he asks Pam Bondi about Comey, and she throws on the brakes. I mean, it is it's conversation, whatever they were talking about, conversation. He was, okay, James Comey, we hear something about an investigation there. She was like, I know nothing of that. And in the clip, you can see Jesse Waters, he's like, oh. And he was like, well, what about, and she was like, I know nothing about an investigation with James Comey. That's it.
That's stonewalling.
Yeah, and finally he pivots. Okay, well, let's talk about something else. It was the most awkward, intriguing exchange that I've seen in quite some time, because she was so just emphatic that she is not speaking about this, which tells me all I need to know, that something is going on.
I asked for honesty and transparency. That's what I want. Inauguration Day, I said we need an honest America. We need a transparent America.
Make America truthful again, is what Lowe said.
We're laying the cards all out on the table for everyone to see. And part of that is going to reportedly happen today. Let's see how it goes.
Can you imagine this actually happening? Think about it. You got Trump releasing JFK, RFK, MLK, and then Epstein, like all the things that people have asked for how long? Since the 60s.
Years and years.
Years and years and years. And the one dude brave enough to do it is the one that they hate the most, Donald Trump.
Why do they hate him? Because he's so damn honest with this stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, to his own fault. We have pointed this out. Donald Trump telegraphs the punches. He tells you what he's going to do. What has been wildly interesting to me, and you see this typically in posts that end up finding their way onto X, and it's predominantly been middle-aged Black America who have never considered voting for Republicans that will put posts out there and say, this guy continues to do exactly what he said on the campaign trail. It's very refreshing because he's just that honest about, here's what I'm going to do, and then he does it within the first 37 days. He's been doing exactly what he told you he was going to do.
I would change the word refreshing to shocking, because it's shocking to people that a man said he's going to do something and actually does it. We've all hoped for that. We've all wanted it. And every president has said it, but not all, maybe even none, have actually delivered on everything that they campaigned on. And by golly, he's making a concerted effort. I'm not saying he's going to accomplish it all, but he's making a concerted effort to accomplish it all. It's not for lack of trying.
And it's going to ruffle feathers.
Which we all love, right?
You want the numbers from Polymarket. Remember when Polymarket was giving us this? Last time we probably talked about Polymarket was during the election where it had every swing state favorite to go to Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yeah. They were the betting favorites across the board. We said, wow, okay, that seems a little bit extreme.
Yeah,
sure
who would
enough,
have guessed it?
Polymarket nailed it. Polymarket is where if you can create a bet, a wager, they will entertain it and maybe they'll post it. And so one of the ones that they have in the last, this is now going back several weeks, but it hasn't altered the betting numbers. Who will be named in the Epstein files by June 30th? So upcoming. All right, here's where it has it. Jay-Z with a 70% chance.
Rapper.
You can play that.
Yeah.
You can play Bill Clinton at a 58% chance.
Yeah, because didn't Epstein have the picture of Bill Clinton or painting with him in a dress?
He has him in a dress.
That's so weird.
It's very
and
creepy that he had in his office.
So creepy.
Bill Gates, it's 56%. Prince Andrew, 53%. We knew the Prince Andrew one. That's going to happen. Tony Blair, 47%. And Jamie Dimon he has on there at 25%. Now, that might be the legitimate business ones, but we're going to get some names, man.
Yeah.
And there's a betting market out there. Like, if you were to try to put in a wager for Tug Cowart, Carlos Medina having gone to Epstein Island, you can pretty much bet it on zero.
It's a 0.0% chance. We just don't.
But what
you got to be billionaires, millionaires to do it.
But what happens if you have a 3% chance? There's still a 3% chance.
Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance?
Me and Jera and Tug are zero.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody else out there has a 3% chance. They got to be sweating it.
Because there is, like you said, there is a possibility that if a name shows up, that there was a legitimate business connection and it wasn't the worst of the worst. But nobody's going to believe that. They're not.
Not at this point.
They're not going to believe it. It doesn't matter what you say. There's always going to be that. It's like Charlie Brown, with Pigpen. He walked around with a little cloud hanging over his head. That's going to be that for the rest of that person's life.
There is going to be an all-out media assault and attorney assault for some of these people that get named, because it could be the end of their career or their end of their public life. Even if they were just implicated and have people point out and say, what were you doing over there? You're going to have to go on an all-out media assault to be like, it was legitimate. Here's what I was doing. Here's what I never took part in any of this stuff. You can check it with the app. You can go ask it. You have to go all out to protect yourself if you show up on this list. Otherwise, you got that guilt hanging over you.
Because there's a possibility, too, that you get invited. Let's say you have no idea. You get invited. You show up, and you're like, oh, my God, what is this? I've got to get myself out of here. And I make this, I'll reduce it down to my own experience. I've brought up the Black Angus in the Navy, right?
Yes, when you got off that ship and you thought you were going to a steakhouse.
And it wasn't. It was a house of ill repute. And I realized it, and I was like, oh, my God, what is going on? And it took me about 30 minutes.
There are prostitutes in here.
These girls sure are nice.
They're really nice. And people that I know are disappearing for 30 minutes. Like, what is, oh my God, I am in a house of ill repute. What am I going to tell my mama? That's the first thing that crossed my mind. My first ever port visit. So I bring this in.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Well, you could go to Epstein Island.
Because they told me, hey, we're going to the Black Angus. You want to go? And I was like, yeah, man. We've been out to sea. Let's go get a great steak. This will be great. It wasn't a steakhouse.
If I was in a scenario where somebody said, because I was in politics, hey, we got a great fundraiser that's lined up. They're going to fly you to this island. Here's how it's going to work. And your campaign is going to be filled. Because remember, we've gone through some of the numbers. If you're a sitting congressman and you have pretty solid numbers and you want to still remain in office, typically it's going to cost as part of a campaign anywhere from $2 to $4 million, just depending on the strength of where you are, your incumbency, and whether or not you're going to face any sort of primary. So $2 to $4 million. Imagine if you're going to an island where there's going to be a fundraiser and you're told, listen, you're going to walk out of there with $1 million, $2 million. Sounds great. A lot of important people. And then all the stuff that happens.
So I don't want you to think that we're defending anyone or anything.
No, but I'm wanting to see how it plays.
You have to be open to You just got to listen to all of it.
Unless it's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and then guilty.
Allegedly. Kidding.
Kidding.
Not kidding.
No, sort of kidding.
We're going to find out.
His name's been out there a whole bunch. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not accusing him of anything. I just wonder. We're like the Inquirer this morning. Wondering minds want to know. It's
curiosity.
Yeah, to kill the cat, they say. When we continue on Extra 106.3, the Democrats leaving their party in droves. And interesting, they're all citing the same reason. Talk about that next after headlines on Extra 106.3. It's Tug and Los until 10.
If you love news and talk, you have to connect with the biggest personalities in the South at thepodcastpark.com. It's more original Atlanta content from Atlanta's hometown talk crew. From legal news to sports and politics, and even archives of interviews from years past. Find the podcast that you love and subscribe everywhere you get podcasts.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Atlanta? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Atlanta for free. That's right. We'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. Atlanta is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop this week right here in Atlanta and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
Georgia is home to over 600,000 veterans who play an important role in strengthening our communities. The Warrior Alliance is recognizing these contributions at the 4th Annual Veteran Impact Awards and Gala on Thursday, May 22nd at the Coca-Cola Roxy Theater at the Battery, Atlanta. You may participate by nominating a Georgia veteran for their exceptional service after military service in categories such as first responder, healthcare, education, military spouse, and more. Go to thewarrioralliance.org today and submit your veteran nomination.
Experience luxury like never before behind the wheel of a brand new Cadillac from Jim Ellis Cadillac.
From the iconic Escalade to the innovative electric Lyric, Jim Ellis Cadillac offers the models you know and love, along with the latest in luxury EVs.
And the buying experience just as luxurious as the Cadillac name itself. With great prices, a great selection, and a team of knowledgeable sales associates, you'll love shopping at their showroom conveniently located on Peachtree Boulevard, just inside the perimeter.
Prefer to shop from home? Visit JimEllisCadillac.com, where you can browse all the latest offers and even start or complete your entire purchase online with the Jim Ellis Expressway.
Want to try before you buy? Schedule an at-home test drive and enjoy the convenience of home vehicle delivery. Luxury is waiting. Experience it today at Jim Ellis Cadillac. Jim Ellis Cadillac, where you can always expect the best.
Advisory services offered through Master Plan Retirement Consultants, Inc., a registered investment advisory in the state of Georgia. Insurance, tax, and commodity services offered through Fricks & Associates, Inc., DBA Master Plan Retirement Consultants. The aforementioned are affiliated companies.
Retirement means different things to different people. Some folks want to travel the world. Some folks want to spend more time with grandkids. For me, I'm looking forward to spending more time with my guitar. Whether extravagant and robust or simple and cozy, every retirement needs a plan. You wouldn't take a trip without directions. You have to know where you are before you know where you're going. Master Plan Retirement Consultants have helped many like you plan for their own retirement. Not only does Master Plan help you create the roadmap, they join you on the journey. So whether you want to travel the world, become a pickleball champ, or just looking for a good porch, a sturdy rocking chair, and an acoustic guitar, remember to plan well, because the destination is worth it. Visit masterplanretire.com to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for Thursday, February 27th. Atlanta police said Wednesday the shooting deaths of two 13-year-old boys last summer may be linked to gang violence related to Atlanta-based rapper Lil Baby. 7 arrests have been made so far. Major Ralph Woolfolk with APD's Violent Crime Interdiction Section said his team will work to hold the rapper accountable. A $50,000 reward is being offered for more information. The Georgia State Senate passed a bill Wednesday to increase penalties for possession of the deadly drug fentanyl. If passed into law, anyone found with at least 4 grams of the drug will face a minimum of 10 years in prison. The bill now goes to the House. A 3-month-old baby girl is okay after being rescued from a burning apartment on Tuesday. A Barrow County Sheriff's deputy pulled the child to safety and she was airlifted to Grady. She has been discharged and no other injuries were reported. Temperatures today reached the high 60s with a mostly sunny and pleasant weekend on the way. With your headlines, I'm Jerry Payne.
I'm going to start out this segment by addressing what Hakeem Jeffries said when they're talking about passing the budget in the House, and then it'll go over to the Senate. Hakeem Jeffries said that the Democrat Party, the House Democrats, are on the side of the American people. And I almost stopped in my tracks. I was like, wait a minute. No, they're not. They're on their side. They're on the Democrat side. They only care about themselves. They only care about power. They only care about money. And that's why those same Democrats are out front protesting cutting fraud, waste, and abuse. They don't care about the American people because the American people are fully in support of that. So it just stood out to me, and I had to get it off my chest. Hakeem Jeffries is not telling you the truth.
No, Hakeem Jeffries is telling you his own version of it. And the more that he does, and if I was running the Democrat Party, I would be pointing out, stop talking about this. The polling is brutal. The American people are all for what's going on. And the more that you argue on behalf of a federal worker, this is not like arguing for the automotive workers, in Detroit in the 1980s. This is not like trying to protect linemen or anything else out there, or dock workers. Federal workers do not do anything that promotes the economy. Every dollar that they make is sucking it out of the private sector.
It's irritating. And if that's the big if they're actually doing work. Which is the main problem, is that most of them are not.
I mean, think about it. So there's Dave, who works down on the dock. And what does Dave do? Dave makes sure that his crew gets goods off of a ship and gets them loaded onto trucks and gets them to a store. It's promoting commerce. What does Jeff do over in the federal government? Jeff gets to look over legislation and then score it.
Yeah.
That's what happens at the Congressional Budget Office. All right, so tell me who's providing something that actually works within the economy.
I'm going with the dock worker.
I'm going with the dock. And so that's the mistake that you have Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats doing. These are not the same sorts of jobs.
No, they're not. And they are horrified that their gravy train is coming to an end.
Yes, they are.
That's the honest truth. That's the end-all, be-all. That's where the buck stops, is right there. They're giving away billions and billions and billions of taxpayer dollars that gets laundered back to them. And let's say I'm not even convinced that any of the money that's doled out goes to positive causes. I'm sure there's a small percentage, but overall, I think the majority is fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, and it gets laundered back to them. And even if it's one of those nonprofits that actually do something with it, I bet it's 10% of the money that they get that they actually implement. The rest gets laundered back.
Well, let me give you a real world example, and I'm going to put it in the way of Tug Cowart. So Tug has been making grilled cheese sandwiches at night. His wife has no idea about it.
That's right.
Now, that's just in case he goes anywhere and they don't have grilled cheese. But
be terrible.
He's also trading grilled cheese sandwiches for bourbon. Okay? So people are like, oh, you got a grilled cheese? How about I buy you a bottle of bourbon? You're like, it sounds great. All right, your wife finds out, and she shuts down your game. Stop making grilled cheese at night. Stop doing it. You're going to realize that your enterprise is now over. How upset are you going to be because you've gotten not only all the grilled cheese you want, but you've gotten all the bourbon out of it, too?
Absolutely. It is a win-win for me.
Right.
And at a very little cost, man. Grilled cheese versus a bottle of bourbon. I mean, think about the cost between the two. And you're getting both. Of course you're going to pitch a fit like a kid in the middle of Walmart.
That's
not
right.
Getting your candy, not getting your toy. That's exactly what's happening. And everybody knows it, including those Democrats that are defending it. they know it too, because it benefits them so greatly that they're willing to lie, bold-faced lie to the American people and say this is needed.
Tug makes grilled cheese sandwiches at night.
And trades them for bourbon in the daytime. Dude, that's a great gig. How do you get that gig? But I would say the same thing about these bureaucracy jobs,
Yes.
these bureaucrats in D.C. How do you get that gig?
How did you get that job? And this goes back now like 10, 15 years when I had a friend of mine who still works in the Congressional Budget Office, and I was going, what do you mean you have to go to work? What do you mean you're working 4 days a week? What do you mean nobody checks on you? This was so foreign to me that I thought to myself, in my, just being naive about this stuff, my, ignorance of this, I thought, maybe he's the only special one.
Yeah, right. He's the one that's getting hooked up. Everybody else is working their tail off.
That's what I thought in my mind.
Turns out it's everybody's got the same deal. Except you and I, and except the American people. We actually have to respond and tell people what we were doing this week. I do it every Monday, dude. For the station, I do it every Monday. I send an email to the owner of the company who runs a department head meeting and say, hey, this is what we did last week and this is what we are expecting to do this week. It's very common.
Like, for instance, my normal Monday, obviously, we do the show together. We have a good time. We hit 10 o'clock. Then I run back to the house. And at that point, I'm normally working on the next segment, which is the 325 segment on our sports station, where I'll do about 10 segments or 10 minutes an afternoon drive. Right. Now, every single week, I'm expected to do this. Had I ever said, I can't do Monday. Well, why not? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I ain't got time.
What do you? I mean, you sent me this email. You sent me to respond to it.
Yeah, I got. No
what
time
are we doing
for
here?
I got no time for that. I've got girls volleyball I got to take care of.
I'm a federal employee. I've got girls I got to knock out this stuff. Come on.
It's ridiculous. All of it is, and that's why the Democrat Party is listless. That's why they have no direction. That's why they have no voice. James Carville said it the other day. There is no voice, no cohesive voice in the Democrat Party. And it's the truth. There is another lifelong Democrat named Donnie Deutsch. He was on MSNBC, personality there. He told Van Jones that he's now an independent.
What would you do right now? Because right now, I've never seen a party as lost. I don't feel they represent me. I don't know what they stand for. I would call myself an independent at this point, and I've been a lifelong Democrat. I've never seen them a party more lost at sea. I'm not sure what I would tell them to do right now. The arguments, it's got to be 6 months from now, eggs are even, the prices are higher. It's got to be that people are starting to really feel these cuts in the government, things like that. Because right now, I don't know what the message is, and I've never been at a loss of words.
Yeah. And he is now, and he says, I'm an independent. I've left the party. I understand what people are saying about the economy. There's a growing fear of the economy. I say growing. It's been growing for the last 4 years. Donald Trump's been in office for a month, and they're like, well, the economy, it's not fixed. Right, it's been a month. Give the man a minute. Give him time to breathe.
I mean, only in the span of a month, how are we managing to, I don't know, end two wars?
Yeah.
And
nothing else is going on. As if he's not doing anything like those bureaucrats we were talking about.
And clean up the federal government and their spending during this time period. But we'll get around to fixing everything else. The one thing about the economy is it is systemic. And I point this out that what you start doing, you'll see the results of it on the back end months down the road. It's not something that you can just do and it changes. And we've been very honest about that. We're like, we're going to have to go through some financial pain before we clean this thing up.
Yes. And there are others. Nicole Shanahan, who I didn't know that I had so much in common with. She obviously was running with RFK, and she said the left is so lost right now. And she is talking to other Democrats saying, listen up.
The left right now is so lost, and they readily admit that they're struggling to find their identity and they're struggling to find their moral high ground. And my recommendation is to those individuals is I've been there, and you have to actually leave the party. And you have to admit that the left has been hijacked. It's like a plane that got hijacked, and you are a passenger on that plane, and you must get off and pull your parachute immediately, because the individuals that have hijacked that plane, they do not care about you. They do not care about this country, and they do not really care about civility. And it's time for you to get off.
See, and that's what she did. That's what Donnie did. All these people are seeing the same thing. The difference with the Democrat Party is they're going to be mad at Nicole for telling them that the plane is hijacked.
What happens, and we see this over the course of history, when you leave a cult, what happens? The cult
they come after you.
Goes after you.
Just like what was the lady that left Scientology that was on the
Leah Remini.
Yes, thank
There you go. Yeah.
But that's the thing. They went after her.
She was enemy number one of Scientology, and I think what do they call it? It's like not non-believers, but they have a word that they use when you've decided that you don't buy into Scientology anymore, and so they tell you that you need to avoid those people at all costs, that you need to ostracize yourself from them and not be around them. That is what essentially is going on within that party. When you don't speak the company line anymore, you got to go.
Yeah. And they have, at least some people are recognizing it. Look, there's no saving this. These people are going to be communists. They're going to be socialists. They're going to be the hardest leftists that you can imagine. And if you don't support it, then you're worthless to them. Get out of their way because they have a country to destroy.
Well, but that's the other thing, Tug. Like the modern parties that we have basically been in existence since the late 1850s. But before that time period, it was not a surprise to have parties rise and fall within American politics. We've largely been Democrat, Southern Democrat, and Republican since the late 1850s and 1860s. It would not surprise me if somebody said, let me give you an alternative message. MAGA largely is an alternate towards the Republican Party.
That's right. I agree with that. Because I hadn't called myself a Republican in years.
Yeah, and I don't look at myself as a Republican, and I don't look at myself as a MAGA Republican.
No.
But do I think that the MAGA Republicans tend to have a better sense of what's going on? I much more am in line with what the Freedom Caucus is talking about.
Sure.
You know, that's much more along the lines of what I buy into. What's strange about this is that outside of the Democrat Socialist and then the regular Democrats, there's not a lot of delineation between anyone in that party to give you an alternate view, or at least a sane view, in my opinion, of where they should be going.
And then that goes from leadership to the last person on the roll. They're all speaking and parroting the same craziness.
Who's their leader?
I guess Chuck Schumer, I guess Hakeem Jeffries, I guess, because they hold the leadership positions, but they're not saying anything that's cohesive. They're not doing anything to except obstruct. They would call it resisting. I would call it obstructing. That's it. That's all they got.
If you went out on the street and asked people who Hakeem Jeffries is,
nobody would know the answer.
And I dare say it'd probably be Chuck Schumer the same way.
At least he's been around for years.
Yes.
Somebody might ask, let's say we asked 10 people, there'd be maybe one or two be like, oh, he's that guy, that runs the Democrat Party. It'd be that. It wouldn't be anything detailed.
He's that guy in Washington, D.C., right?
Yes, exactly.
He's the one with the funny red glasses.
Yeah, right, exactly. That hunched over like a parrot or something, God.
I think I might have to try this at some point. I'd be like, do you know who Chuck Schumer is?
Yeah.
Do you know who Hakeem Jeffries is?
Right. I bet people that listen to this show, 404-741-1230, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Oh, they know, but they're the 1%.
They're the 1%. Exactly right. They listen and they pay attention and they're dialed in. Most people aren't, and a lot of people aren't on purpose because they don't like the tug of war. They know what they believe. They don't feel like talking about it with other people, which is fine too, as long as you're out voting and voting, for good American principles, American values, traditional principles, traditional values. Because I consider myself a conservative. That's just where I stand. I don't really have a party, I don't guess. I just believe in conservative, traditional values. That's where I stand. I have no idea where. Well, no, I do. About to say I don't have an idea where the Democrats stand, but I do. It is complete communism and complete socialism. That's exactly what they want, and they will rally for it. They'll stand and protest for it.
Well, as I've said, I'm now an aggressive nationalist,
which I like that too. I'll admit, I like that too.
I've been a conservative for most of my life. It's now altered into aggressive nationalism, where I'm saying, whatever's good for us, let's go get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that applies to everything across the board. Like I would like to see peace in Ukraine with Russia. At the same time, I want 50% of your
right,
mineral rights going forward, because that's good for me.
And they're agreeing to it, so that's even better.
That's aggressive nationalism.
It is 100%, and it should. We should be getting something out of the deal. We've spent $200 billion or whatever the silly number is. I mean, it's like funny, but it's like Monopoly money when you throw it out there. When you start thinking about the amount of money that we've sent, how do we even have that much money? We're taking it away from American citizens. That's how we have that much money. I don't want American citizens' money being taken from them. Is there a time and a place where occasionally, yes, we want to help? Yes. But charity starts at home. And I feel like the only place that we've not tended to, that we've not done right by around the world is home, Los.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that the idea that when you see what has gone on around the country, especially in the way of natural disasters, how have we not taken care of our own first and foremost to a level that is much better than what we've done to illegal immigration or to people around the world, where we were willing at one point, what was it, $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq?
Yes, yeah.
Where's that money in Western North Carolina? Where's that money in Kentucky with their flooding? What about Hawaii? What about California? Why are we talking about spending money in places where it will not benefit one American ever?
That's why the American people voted the way they did, right there. That summarizes it so well, because they're so sick and tired of everything you just laid out. They're so sick and tired. They wanted that disruptor. They wanted someone that would tear it down to the brass tacks, as is being done in D.C. right now, and we're all for it. And it has to happen. I feel like I've said that a dozen times this morning. It's the truth. It has to happen. It can't not happen. We can't continue down that failing path.
Well, and that's where every single day, I was joking around yesterday, and Jerry got a kick out of it when I was telling him, I'm waiting on my Trump victory, because every single day there's something that occurs where I just go, that got him. All right. What's today? And that's the weird part about what's going on.
Can I give you
what's the next one?
Yeah. Can I give you something that might be today? This was in the New York Times, and it was an opinion piece from Michelle Goldberg. And it says, Trump's new deputy FBI director has it out for the, quote, scumbag commie libs. Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Like, she didn't write that headline for us. She has no idea that that's exactly what we voted for and exactly what we wanted to hear. She has no idea, dude.
See, she's busy thinking that's some sort of detriment.
Yes, of course. She thinks
I am an idiot going, yes.
No, you're not an idiot. See, that's the thing. She's the idiot. That's the problem. Yeah, I guess it's not the problem. That's why everything is trending in the right direction, because he
doesn't hate communists. He hates communist scum. All right, pretty cool.
Yeah, count me in.
Sounds good, brother. I'm right there behind you.
I love that idea. Dan Bongino, thank you.
Where can I write a check? Let's do this.
Seriously, a very small check, because I can't afford anything right now. A small check, but when the economy catches back up and things set on fire like they did in the first term, we're all going to be riding high. The rising tides raise all ships, and they always do. Tug and Los until 10 on Extra 106.3. Going to get to sports in just a second. And then Joe Biden created this mess. Now Donald Trump has to clean it up for America. And David wants to talk about Gene Hackman, because we're mourning the loss of Gene Hackman this morning on Extra 106.3.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Here are your sports headlines for Thursday, February 27th. The Atlanta Hawks, they dropped their matchup in Miami last night, 131-109, as the Miami Heat took a halftime tie and blew out the Hawks in the third quarter. The Hawks now fall back to 9th in the Eastern Conference standings. So in the NFL, the potential number 1 overall pick in the draft in the upcoming draft is mulling surgery on his foot. Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has a stress reaction that could put him out for 8 weeks. The NFL Scouting Combine continues today from Indianapolis. And from spring training, the Braves will be in action this evening from Palm Beach against the Washington Nationals. That'll be a 6:05 start time. You can hear all the action on our sister station app, 680 The Fan.
If the American people don't know what the government's doing with the money, and they don't know by the billions of it, how is that democracy if it's working in secret?
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
You know the old expression, I love it when a plan comes together? Well, with our First Liberty Notes, this has been so true. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. You hear about our family's company all the time right here on this station. For over 30 years, we've been the local lender who said yes when the big banks say say no. A couple of months ago, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Folks from airline pilots to physicians to even pastors are now earning 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of local small businesses. If you're a qualified investor with a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty Notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty Notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. SEC accredited investor status must be verified. Securities not offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
If you're looking for a great new gig, our friends at Atlanta Peach Movers are now hiring. No experience? No problem. Training will be provided through Peach University. And if you have verifiable experience, you can score up to a $500 sign-on bonus. Contact Orlando for more information at 404-640-1300. That's 404-640-1300. And get your new career moving with Atlanta Peach Movers.
Hi, I'm Chris Lalamia, owner of the Trusted Toolbox. Got a to-do list a mile long? No problem. We've got the ultimate solution, our Handyman for a Day program. Here's how it works. You get a skilled handyman dedicated to knocking out your honey-do list. Paint touch-ups, drywall repairs, door adjustments, and much more, all done in one day. You want to jump into spring and not worry about your home? Call us now before the rush for your Handyman for a Day and call us at 770-623-3097 or visit us at thetrustedtoolbox.com. One call, one handyman, one day. The Trusted Toolbox.
Did you miss Neil Bortz?
I am shocked.
Don't worry. He's live anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Oh, that radio show.
Did traffic cause you to miss some of the Kimmer Show? Get it on the app.
It's all the kids talk about on Monday at school.
With anytime show replays from the Kimmer, Bortz, the Morning Extra, Clay and Buck, and so much more. Plus local headlines and breaking news. Grab the Extra 106.3 app now and start streaming.
Joe Biden created this mess. Donald Trump's going to have to clean it all up for America. We'll get to that in just about 60 seconds. We're mourning the loss of Gene Hackman. We all love Gene Hackman and the story of his passing in his home with his wife and his dog has been ruled, no foul play, and Los and Jure both were like immediately. Sounds like carbon monoxide, and we don't know.
Sounds like a gas leak or something.
But yeah, it's got to be something like that.
It was 1:35 in the afternoon when the police did a check and they found everyone and said no foul play. But I'm sure we'll get the details here in the next few days.
It just stinks, and my favorite Gene Hackman movie is definitely Hoosiers. But we went through a bunch of them earlier, and we're asking like, what is it that stands out to you? Like what movie sticks with you? And David is on the phone at 404-741-1230. David, which one is it for you?
Well, I'm going to close the loop for you guys on the entire first hour. You're talking about Gene Hackman, some of his great movies, and then you went to Epstein and all the corruption going on in D.C.
Yes, sir.
The movie The Firm encapsulates Washington, D.C.
So well done.
So well done.
And he's such a side character in it, but an important side character in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and look at you got Wilford Brimley, Tom Cruise, Gene Hackman. There's some heavy hitters in that movie.
I'm gonna have to throw myself on the mercy of the court because I've never seen The Firm. I've never seen it. Along with Rogue One.
For you?
Yeah, sure.
He dies in the end.
Oh,
but it's all right. Well, it's part of a very intriguing movie with corruption, and it's a very intriguing movie when you talk about. I'm trying to remember the name of the author who was writing all those courtroom dramas at the time, like Time to Kill, The Firm.
It's not Grisham, is it?
It might be. Take a look, Tug. You've got a Google machine in front of you.
Who wrote?
Come on, who wrote The Firm?
The Firm. Stand by. Yes, it is John Grisham.
Nice
work, Dre.
Dre is on it this morning. Man.
Nailed it.
Let's go.
Just gave him a little extra pep in his step. Little caffeine and something. He's all over it today.
Blind squirrel.
It is a blue ribbon day. Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah, John Grisham in those, and especially in the 90s, it was like every single thing he was writing was becoming a movie.
That's exactly right. David, thank you so much for the call. There is corruption in Washington, D.C., and that is what Donald Trump is trying to clean up. Joe Biden, as corrupt as they come, we all know that. But he left some messes behind that Trump is now. He reminds me when I was in the Navy, man, I was swabbing the deck.
Do you think at some point the estate of Richard Nixon they think that there was a Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
all right, if I was considered a crook.
Yeah. What
how
is
about
this guy?
the most corrupt president since the Teapot Dome scandal? There's not one thing that Joe Biden you can point to and say, because it all starts with covering up his mental decline and the media being compliant in that. And we'll get into some of that with Jake Tapper. So much of this screams corruption. Who was running the country? Can't tell. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
So I did enjoy yesterday's press conference as we now have Donald Trump, who's now answered over 1,000 questions in 30 days.
Mainly because the First Lady wasn't at the head of the table.
Right. That was another issue, right? We didn't have Jill Biden running the cabinet meeting.
Right.
Here was actually the president running the cabinet meeting. And the fun part about yesterday was that out of nowhere, Joe Biden catches a stray. Take a listen now. President Trump, just as he's talking about the country, suddenly it's like, oh, and by the way, Joe's going to catch one.
I had a question back on these cuts to the federal workforce. You mentioned you're interested in doing another round of this email. When would you like to see that? What would be the deadline? And this time, would it be mandatory?
I think Elon wants to, and I think it's a good idea because, those people, as I said before, they're on the bubble. You got a lot of people that have not responded, so we're trying to figure out, do they exist? Who are they? And it's possible that a lot of those people will be actually fired. And if that happened, that's okay, because that's what we're trying to do. This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run. I think we had the worst president in the history of our country. He just left office. I think he's a disgrace, what he's done to our country by allowing millions of people to come into our country like that. And all of the other things, the inflation, which he caused because of energy and stupid spending, to spend hundreds of millions, trillions and trillions of dollars on the Green New scam, a total scam.
Joe Biden was asleep on the beach and was like, he's just like, something just happened in
Joe
the universe.
Just hanging out there in Delaware, and suddenly, hey,
who's hitting me? Why are y'all throwing things at me? He didn't have any idea what's going on, but everything he said was true. It's not like anybody doesn't believe that. Even if you're a Democrat, you know everything that Joe Biden did, the cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop, all of the open borders that we now see he had the power to do, to close. All he had to do is have the desire, and he didn't.
Well, how many people told me that we just need new legislation that tied into money going to Ukraine, into Israel, and to other places around the world? If you just give this new legislation, then we can close the border.
Power to the federal government. That's all we need.
All you had to do was alter policy. You didn't have to change any laws. The laws were on the books and already to get this thing done. And then there was another small aspect of what Donald Trump brought up, and I believe we're going to see this cycle through the economy over the next 6 to 9 months. It will not be right away. It's going to take some time. The change in energy policy will lower the prices that we're going to see in the stores.
That's right.
Because they did alter the prices we saw in the stores when we decided that we're going to siphon off our energy. Now, we're still able to point out and say, look, we produce as much as anybody else in the world. Yes, but we could have been incredibly higher than that if we just did not mess with the current policies. And Joe Biden did on day one.
As bad as Biden was, if he hadn't have screwed that up, you probably wouldn't have noticed how bad he was as much. Because of all the pricing, right? That's what gets people upset. If the pricing and everything stays, relatively normal, then nobody's paying attention, or not as much paying attention to Joe Biden's corruption. But he screwed it up for himself by making it harder on Americans.
I talked about this, early on, 2-3 years ago when I first joined the show, how I had a college professor, and he was a foreign-born. He was actually born in the Middle East, and he taught history. And it was like straight down the line history. He did not, it was not bent one way or another. He was just talking about American history. And when the issue of politics came up, he said something that I will remember to my dying day because it will ring true. He said, people vote with their wallets. Now, when I'm 18, 19 at the time, I'm thinking, well, I don't have anything in my wallet.
Yeah, I'm not voting
I don't know how I'm
One day you
that.
will, sir.
But to think that when you start affecting people's wallets on an everyday basis, it doesn't matter what else you think you're doing for them. If you're crushing their wallet, they're going to revolt against you. And that's what occurred.
Because they have debts to pay. They have homes to pay for and cars to pay for and food to put on the table and kids to take to volleyball or baseball or whatever. And all of that costs. And once you restrict that ability, then they're pissed because it wasn't that way before you got into office. How come all of a sudden it is?
I would just like to, as we take a step back, remind the audience that the most popular president in the history of elections, who received, 81 million votes, was not popular enough after 4 years to have his party wanting him to run again, and he was not electable. All right? Think about that. The word was, from the polling, was that he was going to lose by 250 electoral votes. The only way they could get this even somewhat close, and it wasn't even close, was with Kamala Harris.
What a disaster.
81 million votes. That's legitimate, right?
Yeah.
But
Nobody buys that to begin with.
So the most popular president in the history of electoral voting could not complete his 4 years without his own party deciding that he can't run again.
No,
how bad do you have to mess it up where 81, there's so many people now on the left that try and turn it into, look at these Republicans who they don't care for their vote. They're already against Donald Trump. Whatever. That's an organizational message. That is what they're trying to spin in the media. That's for the Harry Sissons of the world, the media influencers. How much do you have to regret your vote for Joe Biden that after 81 million of you, quotations,
81 million.
After 81 million of you voted for him, you didn't want him to run again.
And he wasn't capable, and you knew it to begin with. It was never even. Oh,
poor Joe caught one out of nowhere yesterday.
Just a black eye. He's sitting on the beach with a black eye this morning.
He said, what?
Yeah.
What, Jack?
He doesn't know, dude. He has no idea. Yeah, and I say that with no joy.
Yeah, I think he'll slink away from public life.
He has no idea what's going on. He didn't for 4 years. You know, now that he's not in the public eye, he has no idea what's going on because nobody's feeding him anything. All right, when we come back, the governor of Illinois has forgotten that Trump calling him names like dictator and stuff like that doesn't work anymore.
Bill Maher, all these guys are finally coming out, are all saying the same thing. The Democrat Party's in a shambles. They don't have a message. I mean, who are they?
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Xtra 106.3 and the Xtra app.
Join A Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Madelon and host Tug Coward for the weekly radio show Back Your Blue. They will highlight special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. This week's guest is Bernard Carrick, former NYPD police commissioner and a consultant to Donald Trump. Tune in on Saturdays or catch up on all past episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at thepodcastpark.com.
No one plans on going to jail, but when it happens, it's important that you know who to call. Call A Second Chance Bail Bonds, where we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Whether your loved one's been arrested in Cherokee, Clayton, or any of the other metro Atlanta counties in between, A Second Chance Bail Bonds works fast to help expedite release within hours. A Second Chance. It's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. Call A Second Chance 24/7 at 404-BAIL-OUT or online at atlbail.com.
For half a century, glyphosate has affordably and effectively protected Georgia farmers' crops from invasive weeds. Without it, the impact would be felt beyond the fields, hitting Americans where it hurts, our wallets. That's why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for farmers' continued access to essential crop protection tools so food prices don't rise even more. Get the facts at controlweedsnotfarming.com. Paid for by the Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
When it comes to finding the perfect Chevrolet, why settle for anything less than the best?
At Jim Ellis Chevrolet, you'll find the largest selection of new and used Chevys in Georgia.
From the legendary Silverado to the family-friendly Equinox, Tahoe, and Suburban, and performance icons like the Corvette and Camaro, you'll find exactly what you need.
Right now, save $3,000 off MSRP on 2025 Chevrolet Malibu RS models. Drive home in style for just $25,745 after Jim Ellis discounts.
But hurry, this offer expires February 28th. And at Jim Ellis Chevrolet, buying a vehicle is hassle-free, no high-pressure sales, just a transparent customer-first approach.
Their finance experts help secure the best terms, making your purchase exciting, not stressful. Plus, their factory-trained technicians are here to help keep your Chevy running at its best with expert service and maintenance.
Shop in person on Peachtree Boulevard or online at JimEllisChevrolet.com and experience the difference.
Jim Ellis Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Offer applies to 2025 Chevrolet Malibu RS models. Example stock number MA50010. MSRP $28,745. After $3,000 in Jim Ellis discounts, sale price is $25,745. Excludes TABT and state taxes. Offer expires 2/28/25.
It's February 27th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. Today's National Pokemon Day, marking the anniversary of the Japanese release of the game on this day in 1996. Also on this day in 2020, the Dow Jones Index suffers its biggest points fall in history, closing down 1,190.95 in New York over concerns about COVID-19. 1 year later in 2021, the U.S. gives the green light to the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the third such shot to protect against the coronavirus. Also on this day in 2013, Pope Benedict presents his farewell address to Vatican City. A train crashes into a buffer at Cairo's main railway station in 2019, killing 25, injuring dozens in Egypt. Born on this day in England in 1932, legendary star of the silver screen, Elizabeth Taylor. I'm CJ Papa. That's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
WFOM and W292 EV Marietta, Extra 106.3 FM.
What happened? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's a big question in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where actor Gene Hackman was found dead at his home. His wife and dog were dead, too.
Found with the body of his wife, Betsy Arakawa. She was a classical pianist, and the dog was unclear at this point is whether officers went to the home yesterday afternoon to respond to a welfare check or if somebody had called in a report of finding them. We just don't know any of those details yet.
Fox Business Network Cheryl Casoni. Hackman was retired after a long acting career.
All right, gentlemen. He's got one barrel left. When he fires that, take out your pistols and shoot him down like the mangy scoundrel he is.
Hackman won an Oscar for his role in Unforgiven. He also got an Academy Award for The French Connection. Hackman was 95. His wife was 63. The Supreme Court has blocked a judge's order hours before a deadline for the Trump administration to release billions of dollars in American foreign aid as the president makes deep cuts to the U.S. Agency for International Development. Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury asked at a House hearing into DOJ,
why the hell are they so hell-bent on dismantling an organization that has been so vital to American interests and Western democracy for so long?
Elon Musk, who's spearheading DOJ, looking to slash the federal workforce and spending, said at the first Trump cabinet meeting,
I'm getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'd like to stack them up, but if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt.
Today, President Trump will meet with Britain's prime minister, ending Russia's war in Ukraine, a big topic. Tomorrow, Ukraine's leader will go to the White House. Hamas says it's ready to negotiate phase 2 of the ceasefire in Gaza.
The offer comes after Hamas handed over the remains of 4 hostages in exchange for the release of more than 600 prisoners held by Israel, marking the final exchange agreed to in the first part of a truce that is scheduled to end this weekend.
That's Fox's Gary Baumgarten. America's listening to Fox News.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. But don't just take our word for it. Here's Jackie and Veronica, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular.
Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Just call or click to see how much you can save today. Because when it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit ConsumerCellular.com. That's 1-888-FREEDOM or ConsumerCellular.com today. Real people pay to share their opinions in this ad. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Align your business with other like-minded conservatives by advertising on Extra 106.3. Email sales at xtra1063.com.
We always just ask that you support the people that support this radio station. They share your values, whether it's Howard Brothers or Southern Exteriors or whomever. If you don't need a product at that moment or a service at that moment, we're not asking you to buy it. But when you do, give them the first shot at your business because they share your values.
I got a home on the market right now. That central heating and air protection that I've had for the better part of 6 or 7 years, it's been legitimately huge. Because the age of the home, one of the first things anyone's concerned about is, well, what about your heating and cooling units? And when you can show, here's how often they're taken care of, here's what's been done, and then you can show, here's my service, and here's what we've had worked on, that has had anyone who's asked for those disclosures going, okay, seems like that's in pretty good shape.
Yep.
So thank y'all. That's part of being a homeowner.
Absolutely right. And Los does it. I do it. Chuck and his team are great at central heating and air conditioning. So if you're looking for that service, give them the first chance to earn your business. We're not demanding that you use their service. We're just asking that you give them the opportunity. I'm
grabbing you by the lapel and I'm sticking your face in front of that contract. I'm like, you sign this piece of paper right now.
Right now.
No, they do a great job. And again, given our situation with my wife and I, and what we're looking to do and where we're trying to move closer to the high school that my older daughter is going to be in next year. That's what we're trying to do. Nothing crazy. We just want to move closer so that when she starts driving here in about a year and a half.
Oh, my gosh, dude.
It's not a crazy worry for us.
It's the scariest thing you'll ever experience.
I know. That's why we want to try to make it a little less scary for us. So that's the reason why. But that heating and cooling agreement, that's been huge.
It's like when you sell your car. If you've got the list of times you got the oil changed and you give that person that peace of mind, that added additional peace of mind that you've taken care of the car that you're trying to sell, then the sale goes easier because they feel better about it.
Yep.
And your proof is right there. It's the same way with Los and his HVAC units there that Central Heating and Air Conditioning take care of.
And by the way, I've never been a paid endorser, but I am a client.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm telling you, I've always appreciated the work they do in our house.
Yeah, and we appreciate them supporting this show, sharing your values, and continuing. You know what? It's funny because we're like your conservative intel unit.
Yes.
The reason I say that is because we're dialed into what you might need and who you can use to get services done. But we also we're the intel guys that are keeping the eye on what the left is doing because we don't keep keep Fox News on in the studio. Maybe you would think we would, right? Because we're the Fox News affiliate in town.
We start it in the morning and then we flip over.
It's very shortly after we get here that we flip over to MSNBC. And we always keep an eye on what the left is doing, what the other side is doing, because we want to know.
For you, America.
That's right.
So that you don't have to do it.
That's exactly right. It's the truth. Because if we wanted to know what Fox News is thinking, it'd be easy. We just listen at the beginning of every hour. They'll tell you. They tell us. We hear it too. I don't know what MSNBC is thinking. I usually have a pretty good guess. But I like to go over there. And if you looked at the stories that we compile, they always come from the opposition, if you will. Here's what they're thinking. Here's why they're thinking it. And here's why it's wrong.
I thought about this last night. And I remember the moment because it's always when I go out in the backyard and I'm having to deal with the dog. And so that's when ideas percolate. And I go, oh. Because I don't want to think about what I'm actually doing because it's gross.
Yeah, who wants to
nobody else cleans up dog mess except me in the house. So that's when ideas come.
You're in the house of three ladies.
I have to think about something different.
And good for you that you don't make them do that.
And what I thought about was, if we're doing a good job, we're doing a good job because we are putting a compilation together of everything going on in the political world, not just on our side, but their side as well. And that's what we're talking about. So that when you spend your hour, 2 hours, maybe 4 hours with us, you have a pretty good view of everything going on by the end of the show. That should be our regular goal with our opinions on what is going on out there.
Being informed, knowing what's coming at you before it gets to you. And usually, hey, and I don't mean to brag or boast about us, but I'm proud of us. I feel like we're usually a day or two ahead.
Put the work in, yeah.
Every topic. Almost every topic. 404-741-1230 is the number. Appreciate you being involved. This one is a topic that we've been talking about forever, how the words that the left uses have no value. If they yell racism, you're a racist. But it doesn't move the needle.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Whatever.
Are you transphobic?
Yes.
Remember, even 3 years ago, I remember bringing it up on this radio station that at the time, people were more concerned about being called transphobic than racist. And they wore that out to the point where that has no meaning anymore. Are you transphobic? I don't know. Don't really think so, but if you want to call me that, I guess so.
I don't fear anybody that is trans. Do I agree with their lifestyle? No. Do I hate them? No. So I don't.
Am I partaking? No. Am I somehow going to be demeaning? No.
I have no desire to do any of those things.
I think you might be a little mentally ill, and I actually, you deserve some sort of care for this.
You need some help.
More times than not.
Yes. J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois, and this isn't going to work because it's ridiculous, but he's doing it anyway. He still feels like those words, those isms, those ists, or the whole Trump's a Nazi, Trump's a dictator, all those things that did not work in the election because that was the only ammunition they had against Donald Trump was to call him those things, and they did. And it didn't work then, and it's not working now, but doesn't keep J.D. Pritzker from going on CNN and saying that the end of the constitutional republic known as the United States is right around the corner because Trump is, guess what, a Nazi.
Well, we're talking about the death of a constitutional republic. That's what happened in Germany in 1933, 1934. And we're seeing today that you've got an administration in Washington that's ignoring court orders, literally ignoring when a judge says you can't do this. They're going ahead and doing it anyway. The question is, where does that stop? The courts don't have the ability to enforce their orders, and the president is supposed to obey them, but is not. This is just one piece of a very long story that's developed over the last 6 weeks of the ignorance of constitutional norms and indeed disobeying the Constitution, announcing that we're going to do away with birthright citizenship. That's been established. Well, it's in the Constitution, for goodness sakes. So people need to wake up to what's happening in Washington. And I felt like, based on my own experience, I led the building of a Holocaust museum. I worked with Holocaust survivors for a decade.
Are you kidding me?
All right.
That's what you're going to?
Let's start with right off the top because he has it all veiled where he's only telling you half-truths. Yes, we've talked about the speed bumps, that you're going to have these federal court judges that are going to issue these findings, these rulings, and the Trump administration is going to blow right through them. Now, why are they doing that and why are they able to? Because the legal precedent has been set in most every single one of these cases with the exception of birthright citizenship. So that while this judge in D.C. might say, you have to release federal aid.
That would be Judge Amir Ali, by the way.
The courts have already found that it's at the discretion of the executive, the chief executive, to decide how this is going to be done and how this is going to be used. The precedent has already been set. So you have judges that are rejecting legal precedent. They are doing illegality. They're the ones that are in the wrong here. Birthright citizenship, we'll see how that plays out. That's going straight to the Supreme Court. Is it in the Constitution? Yes, but it was meant for those people that were coming out of slavery, that were born here and now had legal status. It was never meant, and this is by the author who penned the entire amendment. It was never meant for people that didn't have legal status within this country.
And then when you talk about those speed bumps, when Judge Amir Ali is saying Trump, he's got 2 days or I'm going to hold him in contempt of court, you have the Supreme Court going, dude, cool your jets. We're going to hear this as well. This is going to make it up to us as well. So it's not like we're skipping anything. And Trump, it's funny, because they fired so many people. Even if they wanted to continue the aid, which they don't, and I don't want them to, even if they were able to, they're saying they fired so many people they don't have the people to cut the checks, which is fantastic. That's the greatest news I've ever heard. You fired so many people that they can't send fraudulent money to fraudulent nonprofits around the world.
So we start with the guys from J.D. Pritzker that, well, what's going on here is the same as in Nazi Germany in 1933. When you start that as the premise, that's the red meat for the other side. For me, I know everything that's coming from that point on is going to be complete silliness. And I just told you why. The legal precedent has already been set. These federal court judges are ruling against legal precedent. That's why it's not going anywhere. That's why this is all just lawfare. And this is all they're left to. Lawfare, and then to try and protest and make it look like their ideas are more popular than they are. 81% of the country in so many of these areas, from deportation to cutting government spending, 86% in that case, all agree with what Trump is doing.
All you have to do is ask, and you will find out the answer, just like we do on this show all the time. What do you think about what Trump is doing? And 81% of people in the United States of America are saying, that's exactly what I voted for.
That's mass deportations.
That's right. Absolutely right. And but you can go through the list, as we have earlier in the week. It's not like they fall off a whole bunch with
they
people
live at
that
65%.
agree, which is unheard of. Unheard of. These numbers don't exist, and they never have existed. That's how popular the things that Trump ran on and that he's delivering now are. And I read a great article. I should have brought it in for the show. It was from thehill.com, and they were dismayed at how many Democrats they're seeing that agree with everything Donald Trump does. And they're talking about Democrat voters. When they ask Democrat voters, are you okay with what Trump is doing? And the majority are saying yes.
So this is an interesting note, and Clay Travis had it, and so I want to give him credit. You can listen to Clay and Buck noon to 3 right here on Extra 106.3 every single day. Check out the app. Clay Travis is very in tune with television ratings because he's been in that world for a long time. You know, whether being over at Fox or whether, you know, having Outkick and what are they drawing and what kind of hits and how many people are watching. So he pays attention to this as like a barometer of what's going on in the country. He had the note that you have more Democrats, more people that self-identify as Democrats that are watching Fox News right now than are watching CNN or MSNBC. Why? Is it because they want to be angry? I don't believe so, not en masse.
Yeah,
I believe they want actual information. They want to know, why did I get fooled in this way? What are you all talking about that I'm not allowed to hear, apparently?
Right, because they're, especially if they're flipping back and forth between CNN and MSNBC, because the message is the same. It's never going to change. It's the narrative. We're going to tell you what we want you to think. And then they see, the world sees the rest of the country voting completely different. And they're like, wait, what? I was told that this was no problem. Everything is good. Kamala's going to win.
I was told that Donald Trump has no chance. I was assured that Donald Trump was losing Iowa even a week before the election. You know, that one woman who's a social media influencer who was walking around telling everyone, like her one last video was how she was in the store, she saw somebody with a Trump hat, and she made the comment about, like, we know he's losing, right? Like, I'm buying champagne because I'm ready to pop this. You know he's losing, right? And then by the time it came around to post-election and she's apologizing, and she's embarrassed.
As she should be.
She's like, wait a minute, he didn't lose Iowa. It's like these people were walking around telling each other, believing all of this stuff where all the data, Polymarket and everywhere else, said that Kamala Harris was getting crushed.
This is an overused analogy, but they were told the sky was not blue, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. They never bothered to walk outside and look up. They were misled, and now they're confused. And we played the audio last hour of people leaving the Democrat Party, and they say this party has no direction, and they are misleading people. Nicole Shanahan, she specifically said it. Do not listen to them. They are lying to you. That's why I left.
Now, there are areas that I've talked about where there's potential pitfalls for Donald Trump and this administration. I've been very clear about, if you get involved in warfare against the cartels on their side of the border,
it's going to be tough.
You have a potential for some real danger there for the administration. The same thing about putting boots on the ground or having any sort of rebuild activity in Gaza. Like, I wonder about, okay, that could be potentially a bad thing that could happen. But I'm telling you it so that you look out for it. I'm admitting that these are areas where I don't know if that's the right course of action. Well, but that's why when I say I'm excited about other things, that's why I'm being honest about it.
You could say the same thing about the whole gold card thing.
And I love it.
Right. I heard Clay and Buck. You're talking about Clay and Buck. I heard them talking. I was driving home yesterday. I heard them talking about it. And I thought Buck Sexton brought up a great point. And it was, if, let's say it's manipulated. The Chinese are like, oh my gosh, we're going to dole out. We're going to send 1 million people and do what we've been doing, infiltrating. And I thought that was such a great point that we didn't bring up, but it had crossed my mind. And I thought Buck's breakdown of that was really good because Clay and Buck went back and forth. Clay is all in favor of it. Buck was a little more reserved, and that was kind of our setup a little bit in the same way. There are pitfalls with that too, even though you're like, oh my gosh, you could wipe out the entirety of the U.S. deficit and even probably pay off all the debt if enough people did it.
If I had to take 1 million Chinese at $5 million apiece, all right, I've just wiped out the largest portion of our debt and the thing that we have that's a stranglehold on our economy and our children and our grandchildren's future. If that means I got to deal with perhaps 1 million problems down the road, all right, well, at least I'm doing it from a cleaner slate.
Yeah,
that's why I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I wrestle with it a little bit.
And again,
because I want people here that love America like I love America.
I don't believe you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be taking money from, let's say, here, this foreign government's paying for this. You're looking for entrepreneurs And I'm sure they're going to go through
a rigorous
a vetting process.
I hope, unlike the Biden administration, who just lets anybody walk in.
Who has $5 million to hand over to have citizenship? Now, this does happen around the world where there are people that have a multitude of citizenships that allows them to enter. A lot of times, it's work-related. Like, I remember when my wife had to go to Brazil, and she was informed, hey, you got to have a work visa. She's like, wait a minute, a work visa for Brazil? Yes. But if you happen to hold citizenship there, then you're fine to move in and around the country and do whatever you need to on a regular basis. That is much more of what we see with some of these countries that recognize we can actually turn this into a profitable venture for those people that are working in our country or want to work or develop business in our country.
Ben Burnett brought up Malta. And it's just so random. Monday, he brought up Malta. He's like, I want to try to get a dual citizenship in Malta at $600,000. and we goofed about it. And then 2 days later, Donald Trump's talking about that very same thing.
$5 million to have it here.
I mean, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
I had never heard of anything like that. And I would venture to say that most people don't know that exists.
I knew it existed in other countries only because of, again, the wife's travels from when she used to do that work. I knew it existed, but I had no idea about what our own processes were or that we could turn it into something as a profit maker for this country.
I would love to know your opinion. 404-741-1230.
Gold card, baby.
Are you in favor of the gold card, the fast pass?
The fast pass?
Like I
need to get on the ride first.
Get me on Space Mountain. Because that's what America is. Space Mountain, the greatest ride of all time. A roller coaster in the dark. 404-741-1230. Love just your feedback. It's just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, and tell me why you're in favor or against. Trump hosted the first cabinet meeting, and one person that was present set off the loving left. Next on the Morning Extra, Extra 106.3. Hey, it's Tug. The Morning Extra has you covered from 6 to 10, and Kimmer's got you on the ride home.
Apparently, it's true. The facts are, 1, China sends fentanyl to Mexico. Fact number 2, there are thousands of Chinese nationals working in factories in Mexico, turning the fentanyl into pills. Fact number 3, the pills are then smuggled into America to poison us. How is it possible that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is not all along the border, and how come our U.S. military is not bombing all those factories? If I were president of the United States, they'd be blown up. It'd be like that freaking Harrison Ford movie where you get the undercover boys and you go wipe them off the freaking face of the earth and then suffer the consequence. Patriot game.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Are you tired of dealing with drafty, inefficient windows? Do you have certain rooms in the house that you can't keep cool in the summer or warm in the winter? Hi, I'm Dan Watkins with All Four Seasons Garage Entry Doors and Windows. It's time to upgrade these old windows. Replace them with double-pane, beautiful, energy-efficient windows. Your new windows will help you regulate a perfect temperature throughout your house. Start saving big money on your energy bills and improve the curb appeal of your home. Give us a call today at 770-517-7078.
Atlanta Braves fans, May is Military Appreciation Month, and a great time to show your patriotism by purchasing a VIP table at the Warrior Alliance 4th Annual Veteran Impact Awards and Gala. The event will be held on Thursday, May 22nd at the Coca-Cola Roxy Theater at the Battery Atlanta and features dining, live entertainment, and Georgia-based veterans being honored for the significant contributions they are making in our communities. Purchase your VIP table today or make a donation at thewarrioralliance.org.
Securing America.
A House Armed Services Committee hearing Wednesday examined the defense industrial base and its ability to meet the demands of the military. Hearing chairman, Republican Congressman Mike Rogers of Alabama, says we cannot prevail in conflict without a strong industrial base. But he says there is a big problem.
Over the last 30 years, we have watched the industrial base atrophy.
Washington Democrat Adam Smith says we also have to approach the subject with a more realistic viewpoint.
How do we manage the challenges that we face instead of imagining that we're somehow going to be dominant in the world and be able to deter everybody?
However, former Deputy Secretary of Defense and President of the National Defense Industrial Association, David Norquist, testified there is good news.
Our nation has a defense sector that is innovative and dynamic. What is required is to shape the conditions that will allow it to perform in the way we want.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
This is House Call for Health. This winter marks 5 years since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's an issue that still divides Americans. The Pew Research Center recently conducting a study to get the current views of Americans on COVID risk and how the pandemic was handled. About 21% say it's still a major threat. Back in July of 2020, that number was 67%. 39% think we're not taking it seriously enough, but more than half say it's not something to worry about, and 40% say it's no better or worse than a cold or flu. Dr. Michael Aziz, a board-certified attending physician at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, tells Fox News Digital the pandemic did have an impact on mental health, noting he sees higher rates of depression, isolation, and anxiety with his own patients, as well as delayed learning abilities in some kids who were in lockdowns. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for Thursday, February 27th. Atlanta police said Wednesday the shooting deaths of two 13-year-old boys last summer may be linked to gang violence related to Atlanta-based rapper Lil Baby. 7 arrests have been made so far. Major Ralph Woolfolk with APD's Violent Crime Interdiction Section said his team will work to hold the rapper accountable. A $50,000 reward is being offered for more information. The Georgia State Senate passed a bill Wednesday to increase penalties for possession of the deadly drug fentanyl. If passed into law, anyone found with at least 4 grams of the drug will face a minimum of 10 years in prison. The bill now goes to the House. A 3-month-old baby girl is okay after being rescued from a burning apartment on Tuesday. A Barrow County Sheriff's deputy pulled the child to safety and she was airlifted to Grady. She has been discharged and no other injuries were reported. Temperatures today reach the high 60s with a mostly sunny and pleasant weekend on the way. With your headlines, I'm Jerry Payne.
7 o'clock hour is brought to you by Van Sant Law. If you're in an accident, make the right call. VanSantLaw.com. Los having to set some folks straight on social media. You can find him at Front Office Los. Find me at Tug Cowart and at Extra 1063.
I'm helping. I'm not setting anybody straight.
Well, I mean,
I set the left straight. I when it comes to friends of ours, I just try and provide clarity.
Yeah, clarity. Okay. Well, however you want to say it. Because when somebody's like, is this a murder-suicide with the Gene Hackman thing? You're like, what?
I set Tug straight when it comes to Jera.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Clarify.
Jere
gets the, so there's Jere, right? But, so Jerry Jones is known as Jera.
Oh, really? I don't think I knew that.
Jera Jones.
Because
so that's why I keep going, Jera.
Jera, yeah. My mama says, Jury. She's like, when I pick up the phone and be like, hello, she's like, Jerry?
I'm still Little Jerry. I'm taller than my dad, but I will forever be Little Jerry.
So
Dad has the same name. I'm a junior.
Yeah. Well, but people on social media were like, well, what happened? Is it murder-suicide? Just automatically the worst of the worst.
Why are they all dead? If you're just tuning in, Gene Hackman did pass away yesterday afternoon along with his wife and their dog. At 1:35 in the afternoon, the New Mexico police were called to the home, went and inspected. They said there's no foul play, but it really screams some sort of gas or carbon monoxide or some sort of leak because again, the dog too. And so the speculation then becomes, well, what if he is on some Epstein list? Sometimes bad stuff just happens.
Yeah.
And that's why you have all the carbon monoxide stuff in your home, and that's why I can't smell gas, but I'm glad my wife can.
I can too.
This is the reason why you have these little extra pieces of security in your home.
I don't know about for you, but the dog is what bothers me the most. He's lived a great life. Gene Hackman's so successful. That poor dog. Is it bad that that's the thing that it stands out to? I'm turning into my mama. So what's happening? My mama's a woman that goes through the drive-thru to get her dog like a Bojangles sausage and biscuit or chicken nuggets during the day for the dog, not for her. For the dog.
You're giving humanity a side eye, but dogs are like totally fine with you.
Right. I mean, I'm very sorry for the wife too. She's 60 years old.
Yeah.
But the dog is what broke my heart the most.
The dog is what broke my heart the most.
When I read it, or when I heard it and read it, that's what stood out to me. I'm telling you, it's a weird thing. It's just when you get older that it happens.
The investigation is ongoing, according to police. So yeah, we'll get an answer as to what exactly occurred in that home to cause this situation.
Yesterday, Trump's cabinet meeting was so awesome. It was so encouraging. It felt like the adults are actually back in charge, not the group of people that paraded themselves as adults being back in charge. It looked like it had order. It looked like it had strength. It had people that sit at the table that can lead their departments to be better, to do better for the American people. That's what I saw. Now, the left, of course, they didn't see that. But one person in particular, Los, one person just grated on them worse than, maybe even worse than Donald Trump.
It was Elon.
Of course.
And by the way, he was not sitting, all right? He was not a cabinet member that was sitting at the table. He was kind of the guy off to the side. But then Donald Trump at some point did reference him, made a joke, and then talked about the good job that he's doing as far as finding waste and abuse within this country. Now, you did have the leftist statist communists that went just crazy over this.
Can I read you a couple headlines?
Please.
Trump's cabinet meeting serves as a backdrop to Musk's power, CNN says. New York Times, Musk cabinet cameo. The elephant in the room wore black. It's just these ominous headlines.
So let me get this straight. A person who is heading up a division of the government that was created under Obamacare and is at the discretion of the chief executive, the president, to give that person and that department power to seek out inefficiency and waste and abuse. That is what DOJ is. That is what has been created under Obamacare. This is legally what they're able to do. So he was in that meeting wielding the power of the president that's been given to him at the president's discretion. Now, on the other end, I don't recall ever voting for Jill Biden.
But she sat at the head of the table a lot, and nobody said a word. This is not to point out the hypocrisy, because we know that's obvious.
It's hypocritical, but if you're going to be angry.
But if you're going to be fair.
Or if you're going to be talking about power that has been derived, there is not one person who voted for Jill Biden, nor is there anywhere in the Constitution where the first lady holds the power of the chief executive.
And then what about the fact that I'm sorry.
Nor was she ever assigned that by Joe Biden.
Of course not. But what about the people that were behind the scenes pulling the strings, because Joe wasn't? Jay Tapper went on, he went on and on about how Joe's just fine. Morning Joe told you he's sharper than he ever is before. What about the unelected people behind Joe Biden? Where's the discussion about that? When are we going to have that? We've had it on this show, but no one else has. The New York Times haven't. CNN hasn't. TheHill.com, where their headline is Musk steals the spotlight, they never discussed it.
They never took issue with unelected people that were taking part in this. And again,
and Musk even he actually has a legal platform none of the others do.
Right. That is my situational difference here. If you told me that Ron Klain is handling all the business in the White House, I would say, all right, you're part of the president's staff, but you are not in any way looked at as being an elected official, nor has the president designated you with powers that are his own. It'd be different if you were to take some member and say, all right, here's the department, I'm going to have you head this up, and here's what you're going to do. At that point, okay.
You've been given the authority.
It's been recognized.
Under the power of the executive.
It was never done. There was no point where Joe Biden ever said, I'm designating my wife as the person who's going to head up every cabinet meeting and drive the bus on what we were talking about. How does that work? And yet you're upset about a guy standing off in the corner who's asked to talk and Elon Musk?
And not only talk, a guy that has...
She's sitting at the head of the table.
This woman...
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
she's running the meetings along with the I say former, with her crackhead.
Yeah, son-in-law.
The son-in-law.
Stepson. There we go. Yeah. Nobody had a problem with it. And now, because Elon Musk is the recipient of the hatred of Donald Trump, maybe they hate him even more than Donald Trump now because he's doing the work of the people. I think that irritates him the most, is the fact that the people are in favor of this. They are being handcuffed by Donald Trump. You have judges trying to make Donald Trump send money to these fraudulent nonprofits that the American people do not support. And the Democrats, all the while, are cheering that on, but mad that Elon Musk is finding fraud, waste, and abuse. They're upset at that. They're upset that their game is up. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. It's the ultimate insider-outsider scenario, because Elon Musk is not an insider for DC.
When this country is at its best, And that's from the founding moving forward. Is it perfect? No. We've had issues. We've had to Civil War these issues out. We've had to march on the street, discuss, basically looking at civil rights and going through a lot of ugly things in this country to get to where it could be. But at its heart, this country is about people who are getting to choose their elected officials. They are giving them the power to represent them. They can also get rid of them at any time. And also the rights that have been bestowed upon people, and that the government is limited in what it can do to you. And that's the last part. The government is limited, according to the founding, with what it can do to you.
And I want that to be so limited, and I want it to be recognized, because for 40 years it's not been recognized. It's, hey, we can do this to you, and we will.
And that is why, as you strip away so much of this waste, fraud, and abuse, as you go after these programs that were actually turning the weapons that this country has developed, the psyop weapons, the financial weapons, as they have turned it against the American people, that is now what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to restore that we have a limited government that has a limited effect on your life.
And that comes a lot with weeding out the bureaucracy that has grown for the last 40 years. And that's when I see that they're going to lay off 6,500 people at the EPA, I'm applauding that. I'm cheering that. And I think American people are too. And there's like 1,500 cuts coming to the FBI. There's so many cuts that Donald Trump even said, yes, they're doing good. I want Elon to be more aggressive. I want to cut deeper into the federal government. I want to shrink it. And I have been shouting that for my entire life, that all I want the federal government to do is protect the borders and get out of the way. And maybe, just maybe, we have somebody that can and is willing to do it, has the political capital to do it.
Yeah, as of now.
And the backing of the American people to do it, and is willing to do it.
Something's been surprising to me that I was so far, I warned about it, but I've been wrong about it. I talked about the amount of protesting there was going to be on the mass deportations. And what occurred was that they're so popular that you haven't seen one time where people have been out in the streets really getting after it. They tried a couple in California. They didn't take off. That has gone by the wayside. So now what are they trying to focus on? Well, cuts to the federal government. Now that, polling-wise, is an even more popular issue for Donald Trump than mass deportations. So what exactly are you going to fight him on right now? Like, he's got to have some area where they trip up, where they are unpopular, for them to be able to seize any ground, because right now they can't get any ground on them.
The only thing that is out there, and we've discussed it, is the economy, right? There is
They're
concern.
rooting for failure.
That's you exactly right. Can you imagine? There was never a point when Joe Biden was in office, even though you and I and everybody listening, most likely, disagreed with almost everything he did. There was never a point where any of us was like, gosh, I hope this fails for America so he looks bad. Never. I would never pull against America. I don't care who the president is. I'm never pulling against our country, ever.
I never said, man, I hope these interest rates go up even higher.
That's right. Boy, that'll show Joe Biden that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Here, I hope you'll regret your vote now that you're having to spend this money on it. Now, in my mind, I said, well, yeah, this is problematic, but you did vote for it. I didn't.
Right.
I voted to clean this stuff up. I voted to go back to 2016, 2019, where things were humming pretty good. That's what I voted for. And now I'm getting that on steroids.
I'm never pulling against America. It just drives me up the wall.
But they are betting on the idea that what will they be able to do as far as building back a movement, building a leader, because they don't have one right now. And their biggest Hail Mary right now is, what if the economy struggles and shudders and has an issue and we fall into a recession? That's their primary hope right now.
They got their fingers crossed for it.
Yes.
They're saying their prayers for it.
Yeah.
As if that makes as if that is something valuable to pray for. I can't imagine being that
power hungry that you're willing to see that sort of thing happen in the country.
But void. Like, where in your soul can you cheer against your own countrymen?
I just know that during the Trump administration, the very first one, at no point did the federal government under Donald Trump change the definition of a recession in order to avoid one. We did it under Joe Biden.
It's nuts, dude.
Here, look, we've had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. Well, let's do 4 quarters. Well, I mean, is it really negative growth? No, the GDP, we're not doing, it's not really a recession.
You know, they give you the whole technically.
Technically, we spent about 9 months in a recession, and you were told that we were never in it, and you were told, look at your 401k, even though your buying power was being stripped away.
That's right.
When your home value went and skyrocketed the way that it did over the time during the Biden administration, where everyone's like, man, look at how much I've got now in my home. That was because your dollar was buying less. That's why your home went up.
I want you to hear from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, making Doge so simple that even libs can understand it. Here it is. You got it, Jarek?
After the U.S. Treasury Secretary found out about the lies that the media has been spreading about Doge, he decided to sit down with Bloomberg and set things straight.
There is widespread concern about the Doge team's access to sensitive payment systems. Are you worried at all that that access and that tinkering of the payment systems could affect the Treasuries market or cause any disruption?
Good. Well, Saleha, thank you for asking me about that because there's a lot of misinformation out there. First of all, when you say the Doge team, these are Treasury employees. It is 2 Treasury employees, one of whom I personally interviewed in his final round. There is no tinkering with the system. They are on read-only. They are looking. They can make no changes. It is an operational program to suggest improvement. So we make 1.3 billion payments a year, and this is 2 employees who are working with a group of long-standing employees. And I think it's unfortunate the way the media wants to lampoon what is going on. These are highly trained professionals. You know, this is not some roving band going around doing things. This is methodical, and it is going to yield big savings.
When have you heard that in the media, that it's actually Treasury Department employees that are assisting Elon Musk? And the fact that they are read-only, they can't tinker. I love the fact that he said they can't tinker with anything because that's been on the left. They're tinkering with everything. They've got your hacking, personal information, all this stuff. No, these are 30-year employees, 2 of them. And Bessent said, I hired one of them specifically. They're not telling you this on the left because they don't want you to know this. They want you to think that it's hacking. They want you to think that it's teenagers in a ball cap and a hoodie that are sitting in their mama's basement. They're trying to paint that picture, and that's not an accurate picture.
What I have enjoyed over the last several years is that when I do have that interaction on Twitter, and I'll feed into the trolls every now and then, I can always tell where they're getting their information and what they believe in, because essentially it's from like the obscure areas of crazy liberal Reddit. You do realize that they are hacking into the Treasury. You do realize they're hacking the Treasury, right? What happens when you find out that they've hacked the Treasury? And then you actually have somebody explain, no, we're hired here, and these are employees, and this is what we're doing. Well, that doesn't fit the narrative, but that narrative that they bought into 3 weeks ago, now they got to move on to the next one.
But the American people recognize it, and the American people know it. And here's the thing. I believe, Los, if you were to put out there that it is kids hacking it and they're just really smart and they've been hired to hack it, that most Americans would be like, good.
Sounds great.
It can't get worse than what we've already had.
Let's get after them. One of the ones I got last night was when these Epstein files are going to be released today, at least some of them.
Oh, let me guess. Donald Trump's going to be on the list. Let me guess.
Well, first off, from everyone I've heard, no. Next off, it's, they're going to scrub it to make sure it's not Trump and any of his allies. And you know what I'd say from that? Good, tough luck, too bad. Ha! We're going to protect our own. Guess who's going to have to suffer the consequences for the next week about being a bunch of pedophiles? All you guys. Ha-ha, ta-ta.
Have a nice day now.
I'll see you after lunch.
Mike Flynn has a thinly veiled threat for the former director of the FBI, James Comey. Next on the Morning Extra. Ta-ta, goodbye.
Latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan, and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Here are your sports headlines for Thursday, February 27th. The Atlanta Hawks, they dropped their matchup in Miami last night, 131-109, as the Miami Heat took a halftime tie and blew out the Hawks in the third quarter. The Hawks now fall back to 9th in the Eastern Conference standings. So in the NFL, the potential number 1 overall pick in the draft in the upcoming draft is mulling surgery on his foot. Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has a stress reaction that could put him out for 8 weeks. The NFL scouting combine continues today from Indianapolis. And from spring training, the Braves will be in action this evening from Palm Beach against the Washington Nationals. That'll be a 6:05 start time. You can hear all the action on our sister station app, 680 The Fan.
We're in spring 2. Now, this is still faux spring. You need to make sure you remember this because we'll have some blast of weather come through in March. We're 53 degrees out today. And I'm guessing that it's going to be a nice day. Yeah, at least it's going to be comfortable. I think it's going to be almost 70 degrees outside. So you're going to be cruising home and you'll be pulling into the driveway and you want to have that same feeling about your home that you had the day you bought it, the day you moved in, when you're so proud of it. And it's probably been a few years. I know it is for me. That's why we're doing some remodeling inside of our home right now. And then when we get to the spring, that's when the outside, that's when we're planning hopefully to launch a little outside upgrade to the home. That way it is that jewel, that envy of the cul-de-sac that it was when you first bought it. Southern Exteriors, they started out as a one-truck crew, simple goal, delivering quality craftsmanship and unbeatable service. 25 years later and 200,000 jobs later, they can do that for you. They've got 30 project managers that will be on site when they change out those windows, the old ones that you can't open anymore because they're painted shut. They can change those out and make them more energy efficient. New front door changes the entire look of your home. Siding, gutters, screened-in porches, they can do whatever the job is that you need done. And now they've got a special offer, 0% financing for 12 months or 10% off any job, whatever you decide to do. Just let me recommend Southern Exteriors. You can reach them at 8779-SOUTHERN or go to their website. It's southernexteriors.co. Don't mess this part up, southernexteriors.co.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Atlanta? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Atlanta for free. That's right. We'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. Atlanta is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop this week right here in Atlanta and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
Attention Warriors, are you a veteran ready to navigate to success after service? Tune in to the Warrior Alliance Network. Join us as we spotlight inspiring stories, provide essential resources, and connect you with a community dedicated to empowering veterans. From career advice to health and wellness tips, the Warrior Alliance Network is your go-to hub for post-service success. Tune in Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. on Xtra 106.3. Join us on the mission, the Warrior Alliance Network, where warriors thrive together. Visit us at thewarrioralliance.org for more information.
Find your perfect Ford today at Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs. Home to one of Atlanta's largest selections of new and used vehicles. They're just 4 miles north of 285 on Roswell Road.
Stop by today to explore their incredible inventory of cars, trucks, and SUVs, each thoroughly vetted to meet the highest standards.
Looking for power and performance? Drive home a legendary Mustang or conquer the great outdoors in the rugged Bronco.
Need family-friendly space? The Explorer and Expedition have you covered. Or experience the capability and strength of America's best-selling truck, the F-150.
And when it's time to finance, their straightforward, hassle-free process ensures your experience is stress-free.
With access to numerous lenders and expert guidance, they'll help you find the best rates and terms to fit your budget.
Which Ford will you drive home next? Find out at Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs, or visit them online at jimellisford.com.
Your Ford dreams are waiting. Make them a reality today at Atlanta's favorite Ford dealer, Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs.
Xtra 106.3 is the only station in Atlanta to bring you the legend Neil Vortz, a live and local news talk show on your ride in, and the Kimmer Show every afternoon. Be here at 3 for the Kimmer, Pete, and Flounder, only on Xtra 106.3 and the Xtra app.
Tug and Los until 10 on Xtra 106.3, 404-741-1230 is the number. At Xtra 106.3 across the social media platforms, at Tug Coward, at Front Office Los, if you want to connect that way. But welcome you to the show, and always appreciate you spending time with us and caring about the things that make America great. And that's not to rip off Donald Trump. Like, I genuinely want to see America be great. And I feel like we can be. I feel like we're headed in the right direction, and I think most Americans feel that way and probably haven't felt that way in a really long time. Some of it, though, Los, is knowing that Donald Trump is going to dismantle the deep state. And Mike Flynn was a bit of a mouthpiece when it came to what might be coming for that deep state. I love seeing this, and I think Americans are encouraged by it.
Mike Flynn, if you just want to talk about what occurred in that original Trump era from 2016 to 2020 and how the deep state went after Donald Trump very hard. I believe Mike Flynn ends up being one of the people that can say, yeah, I know how they do it because I was part of being one of those targets. That is somebody that with his military career, and when you happen to make contact and suddenly you have a law that's been on the books for 160 years and never used against anybody, and yet they're like, Mike Flynn, this is what you did. You contacted an official in another country. This guy has a particular view of what the deep state is capable of. So he was on a show yesterday. He was on a podcast, and he gave out what I would call a very veiled warning, a very veiled threat.
Thinly veiled.
to James Comey, the former FBI director. For somebody that has been, the word has been out that there is a possible fishing expedition that happened in 2016 where the FBI used honeypots, women, attractive women, in order to gain access to the Trump campaign and to see if they were up to anything. Again, these are FBI agents, and that's the reason why if we're going to find anything out, it's because it's FBI personnel. So we'll see where this goes. But with that being said, with that background, take a listen to Mike Flynn issuing this veiled warning to James Comey.
We got whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, and we're funneling it into the right governmental offices to do the right things. These people are busted. And so for Jim Comey, that's why I said earlier, Jim, if you get this message, start thinking about what you're going to give up, because you're going to give up some of your freedom because you're going to go to jail. You must go to jail because of what you did. But maybe they'll cut you a little bit of a deal, and they'll put you in a softer prison for a shorter period of time because you're able to give up some evidence on some of these other people who are even more deeper than you involved in this. Because, Jim, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
It's crazy to think that there's people deeper.
By the way, that's the Benny Johnson show, just to give Benny credit for getting that interview and having that information there. It sounds like he's saying, okay, who's higher up than you that was in charge of this, that made this happen?
That's the thing that stood out to me the most.
Who's a bigger player?
Somebody that's deeper in the deep state than you.
Who can you give up and say ordered this to occur? And I think that just, and again, I'm speculating, but there's only one person that when you see how things were directed, that would be the Obama administration. That's the only one that makes any sense because of where they were, how they were in charge, and when this operation started. It started during the campaign in 2016.
And we all know that Obama had his tentacles and his people in Joe Biden's administration, most likely because they were going to be there regardless. Even if Joe was completely mentally fit, you were going to have the Obama administration running the show because, I mean, Obama already told you Joe's the only dude that can F it up, and he did. But I think Obama, no matter what, was he at that point. I don't think it's that way now. I think he's lost a lot of power and authority because he's not left enough. But at the time, he was the guy. He was the end all be all for the Democrats. He was the most popular. He was the guy that had everything in order.
So let's listen to it again with that in mind.
These people are busted. And so for Jim Comey, that's why I said earlier, Jim, if you get this message, start thinking about what you're going to give up, because you're going to give up some of your freedom because you're going to go to jail. You must go to jail because of what you did. But maybe they'll cut you a little bit of a deal, and they'll put you in a softer prison for a shorter period of time because you're able to give up some evidence on some of these other people who are even more deeper than you involved in this. Because, Jim, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I love must go to jail. But that's what Americans want to hear. They want to see people being held accountable. No different than Doge.
This is not lawfare. This is going back and pointing out that the deep state with the FBI and the CIA and all of the three-letter agencies that we know to be corrupt, this is how you clean them up. You don't clean them up by just firing people. Firing people will temporarily take part some of it. You have to get rid of the institutional belief that they're allowed to be in charge in this way and that they can interfere with elections. You have to send people to prison to do it. It's the whole reason why I have issues when it comes to Anthony Fauci and the NIH and everything else that occurred. If you don't send them to prison, then they just do the same acts over and over again.
And on top of that, it's like the intel community. We keep hearing, and CNN did a full segment on this, how the intel community, the people that are being fired or that will be fired, are saying that they are going to basically sell America out. We're going to sell out everything we know to our enemies or to other media outlets. And Tulsi Gabbard has addressed that. Like, that's not a great way to keep your job. That's not a great way to show your patriotism. But that's the thing. You have to put, if that were to happen, no different than this, you must go to jail. If one of those intel agents does the same thing where they sell out their country, they have to go to jail. And treason is death penalty. And I got to tell you, I'm for it. If somebody sells out their country like that, they should absolutely get the death penalty.
A treasonous act. We have not seen a treasonous act and a death penalty with it tied in since like the 1920s, 1930s. But it is on the books, and it's really about the severity. If you want to set the example, if you sell state secrets,
gotta do it.
You are treasonous to this country, and at that point, you can be executed. If you want to set the tone, we will not do this. You are not allowed to. It's one of the only crimes that actually shows up in the Constitution.
And that is something that I'm not saying this flippantly. I promise you I'm not. I'm not saying this to get a rise out of you. I believe it to be true. If you sell out your country, if you are a Benedict Arnold, you deserve the death penalty. It's the worst thing I think you could possibly do. And look at if they were to share these state secrets, these intel agents, look at the people that they put in danger. Look at the operations that they destroy. Look at the networks that take years and years and years to build that they just demolish.
By the way, and again, found in the Constitution, if you don't want to give somebody the death penalty, it's still 5 years in federal prison. Like, you want to release state secrets? You want to do 5 years in a federal prison?
It's not enough. I'm telling 5 years is not enough. It's not. For state, when you betray your country in a position that you've been in for your career as a intel officer or a military member or whomever, 5 years is not enough. You have to set the tone.
What I believe is you're going to be bureaucrats. I don't think you're going to see military officers that are taking part, but I believe the bureaucratic state, the bureaucrats out there will, without a doubt, to undermine a Trump administration, sell state secrets.
Dude, I have patience.
So it starts at 5 years.
I have no patience. Starting at 5 years, that is not enough. It is not enough for somebody to do something like that. Jake Tapper lied to America, and now he's pivoting. He wants to tell the truth, but he also wants to profit off of it. Next on the Morning Extra.
It's time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Thinking about Gaza, thinking about Ukraine. Hasn't the United Nations done an amazing job for all of us of stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine and Gaza? Getting the hostages returned? Thank God for the United Nations. What a wonderful organization. I hope you're noting my sarcasm. Let me tell you a few things about how the United Nations was created. Russia was in on that at the end of World War II. We needed their support to get this hideous little international body organized. Russia made some demands. For instance, although every member nation would get just one vote in the United Nations General Assembly, Russia wasn't satisfied. No, we want 3 votes. America said, fine. Then the United Nations Charter said that no nation could have more than one judge on the United Nations World Court. Russia objected. No, we want 3 judges. And America said, yeah, okay, you can have 3 judges. How did Russia get away with this? What was their reasoning, their excuse? Russia, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, 3 republics, Russia, Ukraine, Belarusia. They wanted to vote for each one. Under those same rules, at that time, the United States would have had 48 votes, one for every sovereign state. But the UN, they wanted those votes, and the United States said, yeah, okay. Name me one international conflict that the United Nations has ever peacefully solved. You can't. But we're the primary sponsor, spend more than any other country to keep that organization afloat. We're suckers. Neil Bortz, Extra, 106.3.
You know the old expression, I love it when a plan comes together? Well, with our First Liberty Notes, this has been so true. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. You hear about our family's company all the time right here on the station. For over 30 years, we've been the local lender who said yes when the big banks say no. A couple of months ago, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Folks from airline pilots to physicians to even pastors are now earning 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of local small businesses. If you're a qualified investor with a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. Go to firstlibertyga.com and see if our First Liberty Notes are right for you. Go to firstlibertyga.com. That's firstlibertyga.com.
First Liberty Notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. SEC accredited investor status must be verified. Securities not offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
Hi, I'm Chris Lalamia, owner of the Trusted Toolbox. Are home repairs piling up? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Relax. We've got you covered. From drywall dings and leaky faucets to deck repairs and trim replacement, we're your one-stop shop for everything for your home needs. No more juggling multiple contractors. Just call us at the Trusted Toolbox and we'll handle it. Your home deserves the best, and we don't want you breaking your back trying. Call the Trusted Toolbox today at 770-623-3097 or visit us at thetrustedtoolbox.com. The Trusted Toolbox, your one-stop shop for home repairs and more.
A legendary actor has died. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time.
That's Gene Hackman, who played the villain in 3 Superman movies. And there's drama around how Hackman died.
Santa Fe County, New Mexico sheriff's officials say an investigation is underway in the death of Oscar winner Gene Hackman after he, his 63-year-old wife, and their dog were found dead in their home on Wednesday afternoon. A sheriff's office spokesperson said deputies responded to a request to do a welfare check at the home and found them. Details surrounding their deaths have not been released, but foul play is not suspected.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Gene Hackman was 95, retired after a long career in dozens of movies.
All right, Popeye's here. Get your hands on your heads. Get off the bar and get on the wall. Come on, move.
He won Best Actor for The French Connection, and Hackman got an Academy Award as well for his role in Unforgiven. It's a busy morning at the headquarters of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Staffers are showing up, boxing up their stuff, and leaving.
This as the Trump administration is cutting USAID staff, reviewing and terminating agency contracts, and folding the American Aid Organization into the State Department. There are already lawsuits. Last night, Chief Justice John Roberts temporarily sided with the administration and determined USAID could hold off paying about $2 billion for aid work already completed. The full court is expected to weigh in on that soon.
Fox's Rich Edson. Hamas has handed over the bodies of the last 4 Israeli hostages to be released from the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza. Special U.S. envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is part of the phase 2 negotiations and just told Fox.
There's no room for Hamas in Gaza, in the West Bank. It's you can see from their actions that they haven't earned that right to be there.
Britain's prime minister goes to the White House today talking to President Trump about ending Russia's war in Ukraine the day before Ukraine's leader visits. America's listening to Fox News.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. But don't just take our word for it. Here's Jackie and Veronica, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular.
Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Just call or click to see how much you can save today. Because when it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit ConsumerCellular.com. That's 1-888-FREEDOM or ConsumerCellular.com today. Real people pay to share their opinions in this ad. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Search for the Xtra 1063 app wherever you download apps by searching XTRA 1063, Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station.
Great that it is a Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. Sad day because Gene Hackman passed. He and his wife and dog were found in their Santa Fe home yesterday about 1 in the afternoon. And we've been kicking around just all the great Gene Hackman movies, and there's so many of them. Hoosiers. And Los shared this incredible story about Hoosiers that I had never heard. And it was the fact that Gene Hackman, when he did that movie after winning an Oscar, says, this is going to sink my career. And it's my favorite of his movies.
It is very similar if we were to go back to that time period. Imagine if you had an actor at the top of his game, and within about 8 to 9 years, he's now having to do like a John Hughes movie or appear like in Scream 2.
Yeah.
That's what he thought.
It's a step backwards.
He told him, it was Dennis Hopper, and he had made the point to him, I hope you've invested well because we are not going to ever work ever again after this movie. They thought it was going to sink their careers. You just did a high school basketball movie when you're a person who has won an Academy Award for acting.
When I hear that and when I heard that, I couldn't believe my ears because I only know how great the movie is, how much it meant to me, how much through my life, how much it's meant to me. Me and my son Jacob, who is a college student now, have watched it a million times. It's one that if it's on somewhere, I'm watching it. I never change it because it's so good. So the fact that he thought that is mind-blowing to me because I think so much of it. I'm sure there's other examples of this in people doing movies that didn't think were going to be good and then it blew up. But this one is all because it's such a touching movie. It's such an underdog movie. Like it's everything you want, especially in a sports movie.
And I hope Kimmer gets into it as much as possible today because Hackman's a Marine too.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a radio operator.
Yes, sir. God bless him.
And so that is, you want to talk about a full life.
Yeah, he's done it all.
Everything that he was and everything that he was able to accomplish. When I would see images of him, where they would say, hey, he's 93 years old, he looked like every other 93-year-old out there, whereas it was much easier to remember him as the 50, 60, 70-year-old actor.
Well, because he's stuck in time with the movies that we know and love. I mean, that happens, I think, with so many actors and actresses when you see them and you're like, oh my gosh, they've aged. What's because they've not been filming anything, and he took a step back from filming and retired. But yeah, I mean,
if you go like mid-70s and you go to like The French Connection, and so he's doing that, and within 10 years, he's like, seriously, I'm doing a high school basketball movie. Yes, like
this is my favorite.
This is the end of my career.
This is my favorite.
And it turns into one of the most classic movies of all time.
Do you remember him in the Royal Tenenbaums?
Yes. Oh my God, what a wonderful movie. He's so freaking hilarious. What an eclectic movie, but also incredibly dry humor funny.
Yeah. When he hits dude off with a coal train.
I love how his manservant, he tells a story about how he stabbed him. And so in the film, he gets so mad at him, he stabs him again.
I saw that movie in the theaters, which I guess a long time ago it was more.
What a weird comedy.
It was so funny. And you had to really weed through it. It's one of those you have to watch a couple times to get all the jokes. But another fantastic movie, Gene Hackman. And that voice, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's up there with James Earl Jones, because obviously he's the best. I mean, this is CNN and then Darth Vader and all those. He is the gold standard for sure. But I think Gene Hackman's right up there with that because if Gene Hackman spoke, you knew immediately who it was. It's his delivery and his cadence and the tone of his voice, amazing.
I don't even mind the action movies at the end. We're just trying to score a little bit, like he's in Behind Enemy Lines.
Right.
That's another movie where he's a naval officer.
Yep.
He's the commander of the ship, and they got to go, save the downed pilot. Mm-hmm. All right. It's a fun bubblegum type of movie. The same way that when The Replacements are on TBS.
Dude, I still love The Replacements.
All right. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
It runs the gamut.
So good, man. 404-741-1230 if you got something on your mind, whether it's along this line or politics too, because as good as Gene Hackman is and as great as the things that he's done, he's going to be sorely missed. Though he's not really been in the spotlight in a really long time.
He checked out as he got into his 80s.
Yeah, and
good for him. He earned it.
Right. He didn't.
Good for you.
I think it's good when people recognize that, hey, it's time to take a step back and not just doing,
Royal Tenenbaums. They just showed.
What did they? Oh, that's funny.
They're going on TV. They're going through all of his movies, and one of them just shows him as Royal Tenenbaum.
Good.
Mississippi Burning. I didn't even think about that.
Yes.
What another great movie.
Legendary. That was what, early 80s maybe? Is that right?
I want to say late 80s, I believe.
80s?
Yeah.
Okay. Just exceptional all around, and then served his country too. There's just nothing better than
1988, Mississippi Burning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember watching it. That was another one that played on TBS all the time. If you're growing up and had TBS, that one played on TBS. So I've probably seen it 10,000 times.
Yeah,
I've
seen
just
it
because
a bunch.
It was, especially on a Saturday, you're waiting on Braves baseball, and that would be the movie leading up to Braves baseball. Everything in my early childhood, everything led up to Braves baseball on TBS.
How did they give us such hardcore? Because I remember there'd be a time where you would catch, as soon as it would go to rain delay, before we even had the Driven or Braves highlights or whatever.
Before it was even a thing.
It would immediately go to Sanford and Son. And you'd have to sit through an episode of Sanford and Son.
Well, have to.
I'm just saying that you knew you were getting Braves baseball. You were waiting during the rain. Here's Sanford and Son. But leading up to Braves baseball would always be like some hardcore movie like, A Time to Kill.
Or Mississippi Burning.
Or Mississippi Burning. Like, how do I now change the mentality into Braves baseball?
I had to reset my mind to go from, man, this is intense, to let's go, Dale Murphy.
That's right. As I'm watching, 90s Braves baseball, and I'm watching, the courtroom drama at the end of A Time to Kill, and now imagine that she's white. And now it's time for Braves baseball.
Yeah, everybody, America's team. They always had that. If you were watching the Braves back then, they
get the big America's team.
Oh
get up
my
in
gosh,
front.
it was great. They totally stole that from the Cowboys, but it worked.
Hey, at the time with the regional ability and nationwide, yeah, absolutely. Again, I watched Braves baseball like 162 from Texas. I could get about 50 Ranger games and 162 of Braves games.
Yeah.
And there were Cubs games on too, but those were the ones that I was gravitating towards.
on WGN. But that's why the Braves have such pockets of fans in places that you wouldn't expect, like Kansas and Colorado and California, Texas, as you mentioned. Obviously all across the Southeast, but there's so many Braves fans because of TBS. I would love to go back to those days. I know we never will, but man, that's the glory days.
So there you go.
My childhood.
Gene Hackman, TBS.
And the Atlanta
Because you would
Braves.
get Hoosiers always
That's right.
in that
rotation. It was always in there,
too.
As we sit here and broadcast from the Battery Atlanta home of the Atlanta Braves here at Truist Park and Dickey Broadcasting Company. Jake Tapper at CNN, is another thing that you think of when you think of Atlanta, CNN, and at one point how, so many people trusted it, not necessarily anymore. Jake Tapper on CNN, if you recall, he would talk about Joe Biden as if Joe was sharp as a tack. I don't think he cussed at people like Morning Joe did.
Joe Scarborough told you to F you if you think that this is not the best version of Joe Biden.
But there was a point, and we have this piece of audio, where Jake Tapper has Laura Trump on. And Laura's just merely talking about the obvious decline that everybody noticed.
By the time he's falling off a bicycle and falling downstairs and staring off in the distance and looking as strangely as he did and not able to answer questions, we all from pretty early on said there's something not right here.
And Jake Tapper told Laura Trump, are you able to diagnose? Are you a doctor?
Every time he comes on stage or they turn to him, I'm like, Joe, can you get it out? Let's get the words out, Joe. You kind of feel bad for him.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to watch somebody on stage
this is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
Have you no shame that you sit there with Laura Trump and you tell the rest of the country that it's a stutter? Which, oh, by the way, I caught some of that on Twitter back in the day. Oh, you're making fun of his stutter. That was their deflection shield. You have someone who had no shame to where as soon as you have the situation where Joe Biden has now been put out to pasture, Jake Tapper's now. Now I'm going to tell you about everything I knew.
This is the book. It's called Original Sin, and it's written and put together by a
Jake Tapper and an additional writer.
Yeah, right. It's a guy from Axios, as a matter of fact. And the book is called Original Sin: the President Biden's decline, the cover-up, and the disastrous choice to run again. You're going to talk about having no moral compass, no soul. That is Jake Tapper. He, every night, that's just one of hundreds of cuts that we could have played of Jake Tapper saying there's nothing wrong, your eyes and ears are failing you right now. Then, as soon as he's in the clear, or he feels like he's in the clear, he's like, I see a way to make a lot of money, and I'm going to do exactly opposite of what I did for the last 4 years, and I'm going to tell you the truth, finally.
I was one of the first people in the media who was willing to get in front of a microphone, and there was a handful of us, but there wasn't a ton of us, that told you they're finding him naked in the White House, that he's wandering around at night. Now, that was going around through some circles. Do you think when Jake Tapper writes about it, then you're going to believe me?
Right, yeah.
Now, you probably believe me already because now you've seen what happened.
Everybody knows.
But anyone who has dealt with a family member that has gone through Alzheimer's or dementia or any of those brain situations, you will find people wandering in the middle of the night. They'll get lost on the way to the restroom. They will lose track of what they're doing. And that's a scary moment because oftentimes they don't know where they are and they don't have the cognitive ability to kind of figure out what they were doing.
It's so sad.
That was happening around the White House.
And I want to point out that we've never joked about dementia. We've never made fun of dementia. We made fun of the fact that they told us it wasn't dementia.
It was a stutter.
We've laughed at them for trying to lie to us and lie to you. We wouldn't tolerate that. I'll state it again for the record. I take no joy in the fact that Joe Biden has dementia. Do I think Joe Biden's one of the most corrupt politicians of all time? Yes. It's like Jimmy Carter. I take no joy in the fact that Jimmy Carter was, declining in health, ultimately passed away now, but declining in health. I didn't have any joy in running him down saying that he was not a good president because he was from my home state of Georgia. There was nothing in me more that wanted to have a great president from the state that I'm from because I love this state so much. So I took no joy in saying that Jimmy Carter is the worst president of all time. None. And I take no joy in the fact that Joe Biden's got dementia. But I can't help but call out Jake Tapper for being a complete phony.
Why can you, as somebody who's supposed to be a truth teller, like the media, when you are a talking head in the media, then you're putting out your opinion and you're giving your side of the issue. And that's one thing. Jake Tapper pushes himself as a journalist. That's different. You're supposed to be a truth teller. You're supposed to speak to power, keep the powerful accountable. That's what journalism is. So you were going on television, and when you would have these views that were being put forward, even though you were putting together eventually a book to talk about the media cover-up of Joe Biden's illness, which you were a part of, you actually, until 4 months ago, you were still telling us that he was completely healthy. The same way Joe Scarborough, during the summer, was telling us he's completely healthy.
You said something that got my attention, and that's truth teller. We're an opinion show. And we've always been an opinion show. And we state that up front. We try to be as completely honest and transparent as we possibly can be.
I am not a journalist.
I'm not, and I've never desired to be a journalist. I don't write. None of that stuff. But there's never a time that I've come in here and was like, hey, today, Los, I'm going to lie about this.
How do we spin this?
How do we spin this to make it look good for us? Never once has that been discussed in this studio or in this building that I know of. I would even say down the hall at 680 The Fan, when they talk about sports, they give their genuine opinion about what it is. Could they be wrong? Sure. Could I be wrong? Sure. But there's never been a moment where I was like, Los, I want to get on the air today and lie to somebody about something. And Jake Tapper, that's exactly what he did. He knew he was lying about it. There was never a point where he doubted Joe Biden had dementia.
If he felt that, you know what, I was lied to, then how'd you write a book about it?
Right.
How did you write a book detailing the cover-up of Joe Biden's dementia and his mental decline, yet you went on television to tell people that was not happening, and you called it a stutter? That was their line. That was what they tried to use. I can go back on Twitter, I'm sure, and find where I was told, it's a stutter, man. I was like, ain't no stutter.
There ain't no stutter.
I ain't never seen a stutter like that.
Another person that outright lied to you, and I guess to her credit, she's not written a book, but CBS's Jan Crawford. This came, I think this was right at the end of December when she, with the incredible amounts of gall, went on CBS where she works and says, that whole Joe Biden dementia thing, that was the most undercovered and unreported story of 2024. And I'm thinking to myself, you had the opportunity. You knew in the moment what was happening and chose not to report on it. So don't take your high horse talking about
I reported.
Yeah. You're CBS News. You had the opportunity to be honest and level with the American people and chose not to. These are all choices that these people make.
They wanted us to believe in make-a-believe land that a president who required a note card, a piece of paper that told him where to walk, when to sit, and what to say.
Or when to stop saying it. And he would read it.
That was the way that a normal person is the president, a normal president conducts their business. Stand here, do this, say this, walk away. Here's who to call on. Here's what they look like.
And if that, I can't call on anybody else because they'll get mad at me.
They'll get mad at me.
He would say that.
Yes, he would point out, if I say this, they'll get mad at me. Like he was a child. Make-a-believe Lamb wanted you to believe that he was with it. And so the Jake Tappers of the world that are now trying to tell you, I was just kidding. I'm going to write a book about it. I'm going to tell you the whole truth. Or the rest of them that say, yeah, we kind of knew about it, but you burned the American trust. I'm telling you, the media died that night of the debate where everyone said, wow, he really is gone.
It's unreal to think that people like Jan Crawford from CBS and Jake Tapper from CNN still have a job, still have a position to fill in their company because they have been so dishonest and so discredited among us, among you, and among the American people. They have no shame. And they're willing to, they would throw you under the bus in a minute. They would throw you under the bus if they had an opportunity because you don't vote the right way. You don't vote the way they want you to vote. These people are shameless. Another lady that's shameless is Fonnie Willis. We're going to talk to Ray Giudice coming up because she's got a hearing on Friday. And he's going to explain it. Ray's going to come on to explain exactly how this is going down and just how hot the water she is in. Next on the Morning Extra.
WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. The 8 a.m. hour is brought to you by Central Heating and Air.
When you buy a Subaru from Subaru of Gwinnett, you're buying more than a vehicle. You're buying safety for your family, an investment that will hold its value, and something that will last a long time. You're buying trust. For a limited time, celebrate all the 2025 models during the Subaru A Lot to Love event, now through March 31st. Whether you're looking to match your adventurous spirit with the 2025 Subaru Outback or lean on the reliability of the 2025 Subaru Forester, Subaru of Gwinnett has the perfect fit for your family. You'll love exploring in the 2025 Subaru Crosstrek, and the 2025 Subaru Legacy is what happens when we put the best of Subaru into a sedan. Plus, every Subaru model comes equipped with standard symmetrical all-wheel drive. Subaru of Gwinnett has been your hometown dealership for years, and we're proud to be here to help your family find a Subaru to love for years to come. And our award-winning service department is here to ensure you've always got someone to lean on and trust when you need us. Stop in for a test drive on Satellite Boulevard in Duluth and meet our incredible staff, or start your shopping online at SubaruofGwinnett.com.
Are you tired of dealing with loud, ugly, drafty garage doors? Do you have certain rooms in the house that you can't keep cool in the summer or warm in the winter? Hi, I'm Dan Watkins with All Four Seasons Garage, Entry Doors, and Windows. Now is a great time to upgrade with brand new, efficient, quiet, and beautiful garage doors. Your garage door is the biggest opening in your home, which is why it's such an important part of your home's curb appeal and energy efficiency. Give us a call today at 770-517-7078. Get started today by visiting us at allfourseasonsgarages.com.
Hey homeowners, it's Flounder, and I'm here to keep you warm.
Well, I won't, but my friends at Dobbs Heating and Air will. As a new homeowner myself, I prefer working with local, family-owned companies who value what matters to me and treats my home like it's their own. The Dobbs family have a passion for what they do, and taking care of people is their primary goal. So if your home needs help staying warm right now, call Dobbs Heating and Air and experience the Dobbs difference. And check them out online at dobbshvac.com.
Why does it matter that D. Geller & Son is Atlanta's first diamond wholesaler? Because we get first dibs. When diamonds come to Atlanta, they come to D. Geller & Son first. A bunch of diamonds that look the same on paper, but there's about 1 in every 10 that you can see from across the room, and a lot in every 10 that are what my dad calls duds. So we keep the good one, we pack the rest back up, and they go somewhere else. That somewhere else is usually a big box store that's not quite as picky. That means the same color, same clarity, and same price gets you more brilliance, more sparkle, more bang for your diamond buck at D. Geller & Son. That's what we call the D. Geller difference. So why are we so picky? We live, work, and play right here in Atlanta. So when it comes to getting you the best diamond, we have to get it right. That's why Atlanta's first diamond wholesaler became Atlanta's favorite diamond retailer. Come see the D. Geller & Son difference for yourself and find out why we've been Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939. In Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
For half a century, glyphosate has affordably and effectively protected Georgia farmers' crops from invasive weeds. Without it, the impact would be felt beyond the fields, hitting Americans where it hurts, our wallets. That's why the Modern Ag Alliance advocates for farmers' continued access to essential crop protection tools so food prices don't rise even more. Get the facts at controlweedsnotfarming.com. Paid for by the Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for Thursday, February 27th. Atlanta police said Wednesday the shooting deaths of 2 13-year-old boys last summer may be linked to gang violence related to Atlanta-based rapper Lil Baby. 7 arrests have been made so far. Major Ralph Woolfolk with APD's Violent Crime Interdiction Section said his team will work to hold the rapper accountable. A $50,000 reward is being offered for more information. The Georgia State Senate passed a bill Wednesday to increase penalties for possession of the deadly drug fentanyl. If passed into law, anyone found with at least 4 grams of the drug will face a minimum of 10 years in prison. The bill now goes to the House. A 3-month-old baby girl is okay after being rescued from a burning apartment on Tuesday. A Barrow County Sheriff's deputy pulled the child to safety and she was airlifted to Grady. She has been discharged and no other injuries were reported. Temperatures today reach the high 60s with a mostly sunny and pleasant weekend on the way. With your headlines, I'm Jerry Payne.
Tug and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra. 8 o'clock hours brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier experts. 770-GET-HEAT, centralheat.com. Today and tomorrow is the last chance you have to save $2,000. Winter white sale, $2,000 off a new carrier system. You call them at 770-GET-HEAT or go to centralheat.com. Chuck and his team take good care of you. A dear friend to everybody at Dickey Broadcasting Company is Ray Giudice. And anytime there's a legal question, I always text Ray. I'm like, hey, what am I seeing here? I want to make sure I understand it. Ray has been an expert in this field for so many years and been in media for so long. He's so comfortable coming on the air and talking about it, whether it was CNN, which he's done for years and years and years. He's been down the hall at 680 The Fan. And Los, we always enjoy having him here, too.
Yeah, I'm a pretend doctor, but I'm not a pretend attorney. That's why we go to Ray.
That's always. Ray, welcome to the show, man.
Good morning, guys. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, my gosh. It's always good to get your expert advice, your expert experience, and show that to our listeners. And because when I read about things legally, because Ray and I and Bruce Hagan, a dear friend of all of ours, we did a legal show here on Extra for, 2 or 3 years. And I remember always bringing questions. And Ray was like, I understand why you think that, but legally that's not the way it works. And I think that's part of what we're seeing here with Fonnie Willis. I want you to explain what's going to happen.
Yeah, how hot is this water here, Ray?
For Fonnie and the hearing that she has to sit in front of Judge Robert McBurney on Friday at 4 p.m.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. This is the procedure that's about to happen is not rare, but it doesn't happen often, and it's called a special master, and then potentially what's called an in-camera review or inspection by the judge. So let's set this up. Judicial Watch filed a Freedom of Information action and then a subsequent lawsuit looking to get into communications between Fani Willis and the Fulton District Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., and trying to see, were they cooperating? Was there pressure from Washington, from the federal government and the Biden administration, to pressure the DA here in Fulton County, Ms. Willis, to prosecute President Trump, at the time unelected President Trump, and his various aides and officials in this lawsuit litigation that's been going on for 2.5, 3 years here in Fulton County, and saying that was undue pressure and that the federal government was pushing her and motivating her, maybe with the potential lure of a federal gig down the road. And so they wanted those communications. The district attorney's office was exceptionally slow in responding and non-compliant. In fact, was found to be liable for $21,000 of attorney's fees and costs, just for all the attorney's fees it took to file motions and demands for these documents, which all still have not been released, or at least not found. And one of the really interesting twists is that when they deposed or took a statement from the IT specialist for the district attorney's office to say, hey, where are these communications? You bought this special system and program and software, and apparently the testimony was, I don't even know how it works. Well, judges do not like to hear that, okay? So now, Friday afternoon, interesting, at the end of the day, 4 o'clock in Fulton County Superior Courthouse, not much going on, but Judge McBurney, and I will tell you, he is highly respected in the legal community. Brilliant prosecutor, former federal prosecutor, and just also got an amazingly quick and dry wit. So you have to be on your toes in his courtroom. All good natured, but he's sharp. He's saying, look, we're going to hear this out, and I'm going to appoint, or at least I'm going to consider appointing, what's called a special master. So, many of our listeners have perhaps been through a divorce or a probate matter where the court appoints what's called the guardian ad litem, okay? And the court's saying, listen, teams, I'm just a judge here. I'm not a practicing lawyer, and I don't have paralegals and staff right now, so I'm going to appoint generally a lawyer who's familiar with these issues to look into this and then report back to me, the judge, as an officer of the court, what he or she finds. So that's the first request. And then the second part of that is, and should this guardian ad litem, i.e. special master, find something, whatever their findings are, I'm going to look at it, me, the judge, Judge McBurney, in camera, in chambers. I'm going to review it before I rule and before y'all get to argue about it. So that's pretty much what Friday's about.
Ray Giudice is our guest right here on the Morning Extra. And let me then take it the next step, Ray, because obviously you've lined out the stonewalling and the slowing down of passing requested for information. Is this going to be a scenario where if there's anything found on Fani Willis's standpoint, if she's done something that, we'll just say coloring outside the lines, I'd say it's illegal, but, it's maybe a little bit unethical, is what kind of punishments could we be talking about down the road?
Well, let me give you another analogy. That's kind of what I do, metaphors, parodies and analogies. We deal with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office all the time. There's some wonderful, fine, qualified lawyers and staff down there, but they're slammed. I mean, they're just slammed. I've got a case coming to trial later this year that's 4.5 years old through nobody's delay. Not on my part. I didn't take a vacation. You guys know I don't golf, I don't fish, I don't hunt. I didn't go out of town. I've been right here.
Work is your hobby.
That's my hobby, yeah. But we deal with this all the time. A Friday afternoon discovery dump for a Monday morning trial on a 2-year-old case. Oh, we just found the witnesses, and we finally found the videotape, and it's like, come on, man. It's been in the prosecutor's office or the cop's evidence locker since 10 minutes after the arrest. So that's not that uncommon, and generally there's, an extension of time and don't do it again, Madam Prosecutor or Mr. Prosecutor, get this to the defense. We'll reset the case till next month. But this has been going on for so long, and either you have it or you don't. I mean, these are, we're in the world of, if I requested in a piece of litigation emails or text messages or any other, social media content, it's just right there, okay? Get that the thumb drive or the whatever. I'm not a technology guy. Get your IT person to put it on something
server
and get it over to me. I'm sure some of it's more complicated than I'm making it out to be if you got into, maybe millions of banking transactions or something like that. But generally, these are pretty easy, should be pretty easy to retrieve. Now, perhaps there's some security clearances that need to be had in some cases, and maybe that's the case here if you're dealing with the United States Attorney's Office or perhaps the Oval Office. I mean, we just don't know. That's the issue. That's what judicial wants to find out.
See, but that's the thing that I think a lot of people have pause about because, yes, it should be very easy. And then you have employees saying, well, I don't even know how to operate the equipment. That automatically looks like you're trying to do something that will either cover your tail or maybe even hopefully help your case in the future. I don't know what's trying to be accomplished. Well, actually, I think I do. But in this, it looks like you're guilty and you're trying to escape the punishment that you probably deserve. You've been promised something. You've been said, hey, if you
went to the Rose Garden twice.
Exactly right. We have the visitors logs of the White House.
Right.
This shouldn't be taking this long. And why are you trying, unless you're guilty, why are you trying to drag your feet?
Well, I didn't make this quote, and I wish I could profit off of it, but generally where there's smoke, there's fire.
Amen to that.
And I think, I'm not, again, Judge McBurney, just, heads and shoulders above most of us lawyers. He's wanting to know what's going on. Somebody, and I don't know if it was his court, because sometimes we have magistrates that sit in and rule on things, but somebody granted Judicial Watch $21,000 in attorney's fees against a government entity for dragging its feet, not being responsive. So that's why we're going through this stage. Judge McBurney says, okay, I've had enough, and I want to put this matter to rest because I've got 27 murder cases lined up, waiting to get into my courtroom here, or however many, because just Fulton County is just, people don't realize how big Fulton County is, both in geography, population, economy, and crime. We really make a lot of crime here in Fulton County. So he's saying, okay, get in here. Tell me why I should or should not appoint a special master. If you think I should, give me a couple of names that you like, or you think would do a good job. I've got my own ideas about that. If I appoint the special master, he or she, you better give them unfettered access. I don't want a special master coming back here and telling me their phone calls aren't being returned and they showed up at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning and no one was there. And then I'm going to look at everything and then I'm going to rule. Now, we don't know how he's going to rule, Tug. I mean, you have your thoughts about where this may go, and it might go the opposite, or it might go somewhere in between. So that's going to sort of detail or align with what the punishment would be. It could be contempt, which is, okay, a $1 fine and sit in the back of the courtroom for the rest of the day, or up. I'm just being facetious, but there are many people held in contempt that way because they just need to be taught a lesson.
She may be one of those because she's quick to say, I'm not participating.
Does this not all, and Ray Giudice is our guest right here on the Morning Xtra, does this not all come back to the correspondence with the White House notwithstanding, does this not all come back to the silliness of not even the case, but of taxpayer dollars being used on your boyfriend to get this thing going?
Well, that is the elephant in the room, okay? But that is not the focus of the hearing on Friday, okay? I mean, but you can't ignore it. I mean, if you look at the history, I mean, we're still up in. It was Judge McAfee who actually has the trial case. The charges against the president that ruled against Fani Willis, and that's being appealed what was it? The odor of mendacity, which I'm not. I had to look that up. I mean, I know what odor means.
Yeah, I'm not sure the other.
Mendacity, but I mean, so the tide is rolling against the district attorney's office here, and so no one's ignoring all that. But I don't think Judge McBurney wants to review all that on Friday, especially starting at 4:00 on a Friday. So let's get down. Where are the texts? Where are the emails? Where are the communications? Why can't you find them? Okay, I'm going to appoint, Attorney Giudice to get into this, and he's going to report back to me in 60 days. I mean, that's what I think is going to happen on Friday afternoon.
Okay, 60 days. That's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
a long time.
Well, I mean, look, how long has this case been going on?
Yeah.
Years. And the special master. So if the judge appoints Ray Giudice, who when Eisenhower was president, I was born. Okay, so I was the remote control growing up, and 2, 5, and 7. That's our 3 channels with the rabbit ears. So I would have to hire an IT staff.
Okay.
I would have to gear up my law firm, assign a couple of junior associates and maybe a couple paralegals and an investigator. I mean, I would have to gear up. I mean, nobody right now in their law firm is saying, oh, boy, I can't wait to be the special master on this case. I mean, nobody's really doing that. The judge is going to appoint somebody. They're going to have to gear up and review all this and then put it in a format for the judge to review. And
do they not work ahead, though, knowing this is coming? Do you don't think the judge has probably got a few folks picked out that he feels like could handle this and get up and running?
He might, but they're not doing too much until they're ordered to do so and submit their bill. There's a few things. I mean, I bet there's a bunch of lawyers that want to do this and are looking forward to it and maybe are capable of the IT. But I'm just saying it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not going to be. We're not going to have an order on Friday afternoon and an in-camera inspection on Monday. It's not going to work that way. But it'll happen. And McBurney, he runs a pretty tight ship as far as scheduling goes. So I wouldn't look for a lot of delays with that. I mean, there may be delays, and there may be punishment for delays because that's how he is.
Morning Xtra on Xtra 106.3 Tug and Los. Final thought here, Ray, because for months Fonnie Willis fought. This is different. This is testifying in front of the Georgia State Senate and the Investigations Committee. The subpoena was squashed, and now she's going to have to testify. She's been quick to say no, and that's what Senator Dozel has talked about. Final thought on this, and just quickly. She can't escape this now that the subpoena has been squashed and she has to go and testify in front of the Georgia State Senate. Is she going to be able to just plead the fifth on this? Or what could come of that if she is non-cooperative?
Well, gosh, I don't think she can plead the fifth. First, she might try to. I'll be interested to see how much legal counsel and who she brings with her. I'm sure she'll be represented. I'm sure there'll be a lengthy statement of, this is a witch hunt and blah, 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 both on the Capitol steps and in the media, because everybody tries to steer their narrative, and shape the media opinion. I think it's going to be a tough day for her.
Me too.
Or maybe days.
Yeah.
When I look at the cross-examination of her during the hearing about hiring her boyfriend as the special prosecutor for someone who's a very experienced attorney, and she was. We had cases with her when she was an assistant district attorney, very competent trial lawyer, by the way. I was surprised at her demeanor on the witness stand. I think regardless of whether you thought she was telling the truth or not, it didn't come across as someone who was being very candid. It was cagey. How's that word?
Yeah.
I'll use that word.
Well, I mean, we've all kept thousands of dollars in our home because we've all been instructed to do so. That's
multiple thousands.
I mean, I don't know how you grew up, Ray, but I keep tens of thousands just sitting in my home because you never know.
I thought some of it was,
Hard to believe.
I was going to say absurd.
Absurd, yes.
There were probably better answers.
Yeah, I think so too.
or maybe better preparation by her team before she got on the witness stand. So if that's the approach now let me just shift gears for a second. In that hearing, she was being cross-examined by several, Ms. Merchant and Steve Sadow, of our finest criminal defense lawyers in probably the state. If you tend, and I'm not going to name any names, but if you tend to watch, any congressional hearings or special investigations, these guys make speeches, man, these politicians. They're not trained lawyers with sharp, pointed questions that know how to follow up on a cross. So maybe that won't happen. But I'll bet there's a lot of politicking and speechifying going on when that happens.
I bet so.
Because everybody wants to be in the first 10 minutes at 6 o'clock on the news. So we'll see. I think there'll be a lot of fireworks. One of the legislators, as an exception to what I just said, involved in that is an attorney named Bill Calsert out of Athens. And I've had cases with Bill over the years, and he is his final lawyer in the state of Georgia as well. And that's a little bit of a rarity now in the legislature. But we'll see. I think it'll be fascinating. I mean, that's
me too.
If I didn't have to drive all the way downtown and fight for parking, I wouldn't mind being in the
being in the crowd.
And I hope it's televised in some way, not just a little snippet here and there, carefully clipped. I hope the media covers that and covers extensively the results of the special master. Because look, let's just say this because it has to be said. She has a presumption of innocence, as anybody who is accused of anything.
Yeah, she
and
does.
Perhaps after the in-camera inspection and the special master's investigation, this all leads to much ado about nothing. There's a part
seems
of me
unlikely.
Right. Well, okay, but I have, you've worked with me long enough.
Yes, sir. I know. I knew it was coming. I
mean, we goes way back. So that needs to be said, and I also say that she's had enough time to certainly prepare for the hearings and the investigation that's about to proceed. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. But I will say this much for both sides: don't be wrong in front of Judge McBurney.
Okay.
It's better to be right than to be wrong in front of Judge McBurney. Okay.
I think that's probably anywhere.
Yeah. And I also think there is, and I can say this as an attorney who's down in that courthouse several times a week. It'll be 40 years on July 3rd, by the way. But
yeah, but who's counting?
I think everybody in the system is just so tired of all this. I mean, we have so much work to do. There's so many cases, so many people who, even simple things. We always tend to focus when we speak about the criminal law. It's kind of what I do. But, there's corporations and businesses that have land disputes and zoning issues.
Things that need to be taken care of. That's right.
The business, not everything is, awful, but we have a legal system. And there's folks that want to get a divorce, or there's folks that have child custody issues. And you can go down the list of non-criminal legal matters in this huge county that runs from Alpharetta all the way down to
Yes, sir.
Locust Grove or something.
Yeah, got to get the clogging done, no doubt. And I know the system's been clogged up, and you've talked about it a lot. Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us this morning. Always a pleasure to hear from you and have your expertise.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me.
RayGLaw.com is where you can find him. RayGLaw.com. His cell phone is on his website because, like he says, he doesn't hunt, fish, or golf. He works.
That's how you know he's awesome. Because, Ray, as he told you, there are better answers.
Yeah. That's right.
That man told you, listen, you got your answers, but there are better answers.
When we continue on Xtra 106.3, one CNN commentator suggests Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize. What? Did I read that right? CNN said that? Next on Xtra.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan, and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Here are your sports headlines for Thursday, February 27th. The Atlanta Hawks, they dropped their matchup in Miami last night, 131-109, as the Miami Heat took a halftime tie and blew out the Hawks in the third quarter. The Hawks now fall back to 9th in the Eastern Conference standings. So in the NFL, the potential number 1 overall pick in the draft in the upcoming draft is mulling surgery on his foot. Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has a stress reaction that could put him out for 8 weeks. The NFL scouting combine continues today from Indianapolis. And from spring training, the Braves will be in action this evening from Palm Beach against the Washington Nationals. That'll be a 6:05 start time. You can hear all the action on our sister station app, 680 The Fan.
Georgia is home to over 600,000 veterans who play an important role in strengthening our communities. The Warrior Alliance is recognizing these contributions at the 4th Annual Veteran Impact Awards and Gala on Thursday, May 22nd at the Coca-Cola Roxy Theater at the Battery, Atlanta. You may participate by nominating a Georgia veteran for their exceptional service after military service in categories such as first responder, healthcare, education, military spouse, and more. Go to thewarrioralliance.org today and submit your veteran nomination.
Convenience is defined as the state of being able to proceed with something with little effort or difficulty. Well, at RBM of Atlanta, we embody this philosophy. Meet our Mercedes-Benz pickup and delivery service. It gives you back time and money. Does your Mercedes-Benz need service? If so, we'll pick up your vehicle that's requiring service from your home or office and bring it back to our dealership for the required service. With over 100 appointments available every weekday, over 50 appointments on Saturdays, and more than 200 courtesy vehicles in our fleet, we're here to serve. We'll work around your schedule. We're here to save you time, energy, and money. RBM of Atlanta is a J.D. Power 2023 Diamond Dealer of Excellence for the customer sales experience and Georgia's only 9-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best winner. We're proud to be Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964. Pickup and delivery service restrictions do apply. Ask your service coordinator or service advisor for details.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Atlanta? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Atlanta for free. That's right. We'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. Atlanta is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop this week right here in Atlanta and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
Get connected to Extra 106.3 on all your favorite apps. Then download ours and stream the station across Georgia. We're live online at extra1063.com. Stream live video from the studios on YouTube. And of course, Kimmer, Bortz, and your favorite Extra shows in crystal clear digital on the Extra 106.3 app.
Tug and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra. I was just about to tell you that Scott Jennings is the guy from CNN that says Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. He's ending 2 wars, and of course they melted down. They were told him he was crazy, whatever. But he's exactly right. I think he's exactly correct. But there's a more pressing story that Front Office Los is telling me about, and
you're just so with it. I'm surprised you didn't know about this.
And maybe I will. Maybe it'll conjure something up in my head.
Maybe you should bring this up on the country show tonight.
All right.
You can tell the audience about what's been going on out of Mississippi with Mary Kate.
Okay, tell me about Mary Kate.
So Mary Kate, as you can see right here, and this has been everywhere in the last 48 hours.
Lovely lady.
And I didn't bring it up yesterday because I didn't feel like it was an appropriate time. Okay. But you know what? We're getting in near the 9 o'clock hour. It feels kind of fun.
Yeah, things get off the rails usually then.
So Mary Kate has removed all of her Instagram and everything else, and apparently she's dropping out of school. Because the word is, and it's kind of gone around, and it's now a viral sensation. She has a boyfriend at Ole Miss. Apparently, she slept with his dad.
Oh, my God. What?
So the whole story's been out there.
I've not seen this.
He then removed all of his information.
Oh, no.
And the son apparently is holding on tight to Mary-Kate for now, and the mom is divorcing the dad.
Oh, my Lord. That sounds like something maybe on the Jerry Springer show.
So it went, yes, and that's the fun of it. We grew up in the 90s. This does not surprise us or bother us one bit.
No, we're used to, I mean, not used to. That it was a platform. Because it was happening with relative frequency, they gave it a platform, and it scored gold ratings.
So the word is that the Mary-Kate was with the dad, that they had attended one of the siblings' basketball games, and then decided to grab dinner afterwards.
Just them two, not with his son, who's the boyfriend.
And this occurred.
Lord.
So then it all has kind of gone around, and that's why she's like dropped out of school at Ole Miss and then pulled all of her social media down. And he's done the same with his LinkedIn profile. And these people are basically, it's not alleged. It seems like it's pretty much out there.
The evidence starting to stack up, and when people really pull back so quickly, they're trying to hide or cover up something. So they don't want something to be talked about.
So in this hardcore world of politics and spending and legal battles,
I've missed Mary-Kate.
Just know that there are people out there that right now they're having a hard time because of stuff they got into, because it is undefeated.
Yes, it is.
It'll cause people to do some crazy stuff, just like Fonnie Willis did.
Do you know the ages of Dad and the ages of Mary-Kate? Mary-Kate, what, early 20s or maybe 20?
Dad looks like a typical dad, like probably late 40s, early 50s. Yeah.
Oh no, dude, this is.
I'm just surprised that you haven't gone down this road.
It's not
yet.
even. I mean, it's not even hit my radar screen at all. I mean, it's not even shown up anywhere. I think you may be further ahead of this than you realize.
No. See, here we go. Here's
oh no.
So
what's his name? Eric Stralis?
Eric Salas.
Eric Salas? Oh my goodness.
And his son, and then here's all the correspondence back and forth. Here's the picture by which this all got going. Mary-Kate went home early from school because I guess she liked to finish her exams early. There's just a whole lot of silliness in here, and trying to read all of it's really crazy. But it basically confirms that. And then I don't know how Evan, the boyfriend, found out, but I know he did.
Oh.
And then he was upset about it.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine that happening in your like in your sphere of people? How do you respond to that? How do you interact with the dad or with her? It's so bizarre. And what does a dad at 58 have in common with a 20-year-old? Like, what are you talking about other than what they talked about?
If she's got some daddy issues,
yeah.
I mean, how else does this happen?
I don't understand. I'll never understand.
How else does that happen?
Would it be different? Let's reverse
a little bit of alcohol and daddy issues,
Yes.
and how does this happen?
Yes, yeah.
So for those of you out there that don't know the story along with Tug, now you're up to date on what everyone's talking about on the internet in the last 48 hours.
Mary-Kate, go look it up, or don't. But would the story be the same, and I contend it wouldn't, if Mary-Kate was mama at 48, 49, 50, 51, and it was Eric, the 20-year-old? It would be handled much differently. You know what I mean? It would be completely handled differently, in my opinion. You can tell me I'm wrong at 404-741-1230 if you'd like.
I just wanted to make you aware of what's been going on out there.
No idea. See, I'm so lost.
You're up to date on like Fonnie Willis?
Yeah, I know what's going on with Fonnie.
Weird pop culture. We got Gene Hackman.
Have no idea.
And then Mary-Kate.
I need to be better at my TMZ and my Huffington Post style.
It's not even celebrity news. It's just
kind of. Well, but I mean, it fills in. She'll be a celebrity. She'll have a podcast. It'll all work out in her favor. Something tells me. A reporter had a cabinet question about Elon Musk, but Trump, he fielded the question for Elon. Next on the Morning Extra.
Time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Thinking about Gaza, thinking about Ukraine. Hasn't the United Nations done an amazing job for all of us of stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine and Gaza, getting the hostages returned? Thank God, for the United Nations, what a wonderful organization. I hope you're noting my sarcasm. Let me tell you a few things about how the United Nations was created. Russia was in on that at the end of World War II. We needed their support to get this hideous little international body organized. Russia made some demands. For instance, although every member nation would get just one vote in the United Nations General Assembly, Russia wasn't satisfied. No, we want 3 votes. America said, fine. Then the United Nations Charter said that no nation could have more than one judge on the United Nations World Court. Russia objected. No, we want 3 judges. And America said, yeah, okay, you can have 3 judges. How did Russia get away with this? What was their reasoning, their excuse? Russia, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, 3 republics. Russia, Ukraine, Belarus. They wanted to vote for each one. Under those same rules, at that time, the United States would have had 48 votes, 1 for every sovereign state. But the UN, they wanted those votes, and the United States said, yeah, okay. Name me one international conflict that the United Nations has ever peacefully solved. You can't. But we're the primary sponsor, spend more than any other country to keep that organization afloat. We're suckers. Neil Bortz, Extra, 106.3.
If you're looking for a great new gig, our friends at Atlanta Peach Movers are now hiring. No experience? No problem. Training will be provided through Peach University. And if you have verifiable experience, you can score up to a $500 sign-on bonus. Contact Orlando for more information at 404-640-1300. That's 404-640-1300. And get your new career moving with Atlanta Peach Movers. Join A Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Madelon and host Tug Coward for the weekly radio show Back Your Blue. They will highlight special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. This week's guest is Bernard Carrick, former NYPD police commissioner and a consultant to Donald Trump. Tune in on Saturdays or catch up on all past episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at thepodcastpark.com.
No one plans on going to jail, but when it happens, it's important that you know who to call. Call A Second Chance Bail Bonds, where we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Whether your loved one's been arrested in Cherokee, Clayton, or any of the other metro Atlanta counties in between, A Second Chance Bail Bonds works fast to help expedite release within hours. A Second Chance. It's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. Call A Second Chance 24/7 at 404-BAIL-OUT or online at atlbail.com.
WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. The 9 a.m. hour is presented by Southern Exteriors. Quality and precision you can rely on.
There's drama surrounding the death of an actor. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Gene Hackman was a Hollywood legend who'd long been retired.
Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, confirmed dead after the two were found along with their dog unresponsive yesterday in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Although the sheriff's office says there's no immediate indication of foul play, they still have not provided a cause of death or details as to when the couple might have died.
That's Fox's Todd Pyro. Hackman was in dozens of movies, a coach in Hoosiers.
You guys remember what we worked on in practice, all right? I want to see it on the car.
The Sheriff in Unforgiven.
He's got one barrel left. When he fires that, take out your pistols and shoot him down like the mangy scoundrel he is.
Hackman won an Oscar for that movie and the Best Actor Academy Award for The French Connection. Hackman was 95. Hamas has handed over the bodies of 4 more hostages killed after the deadly terror attack that triggered the war in Gaza as phase 1 of the ceasefire ends.
Israeli officials are now confirming most of the deceased hostages released overnight were murdered by Hamas and militant groups. The remains include those of an 87-year-old, the oldest hostage held, a 69-year-old, and 2 49-year-olds, all men, all fathers, exchanged over 600 Palestinian prisoners.
Fox's Greg Pelgon in Tel Aviv. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer will hold talks today with President Trump on ending Russia's war in Ukraine. The day before Ukraine's president goes to the White House to sign an agreement allowing the U.S. to share profits from Ukraine's natural resources to recoup the costs of American military aid. Special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, Rudolph tells Fox.
President Trump came into office, and lo and behold, what did he find out? He found out that we had contributed significantly more than the Europeans to this war effort, but the Europeans had loan agreements to pay them back. He just didn't think that was fair.
A legal win for the president. The U.S. Agency for International Development is making big cuts at the Supreme Court. Blocks an order to pay billions in foreign aid. America's listening to Fox News.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. But don't just take our word for it. Here's Jackie and Veronica, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular.
Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Just call or click to see how much you can save today. Because when it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit ConsumerCellular.com. That's 1-888-FREEDOM or ConsumerCellular.com today. Real people paid to share their opinions in this ad. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Does your friend listen to an old station whose news gives them the blues? Set your friend right. Tell him to download the Extra 106.3 app.
Tug and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra bonus hour, if you will. We started last hour with a conversation about original sin, President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again, written by Jake Tapper of CNN and Alex Thompson of Axios. Then I run across this. The only reason I bring this back up because it's almost like I can't believe that this man said this on the air. Jake Tapper apparently last night said, as you viewers know, I've been covering concerns about Biden's age and health for years. We spent several months talking to people, and you will not believe what's really going on. I mean, a dude that is either believes that you're dumb enough to believe that, or that you don't pay enough attention to realize what he's doing. We played the audio, and there's hundreds of more examples of him defending Joe Biden, saying he was sharp as a tack. I mean, he went after Laura Trump when Laura Trump was on his show, and Laura merely pointed out he's falling around. He can't remember people's names.
He's trying to shame her in a way that's childish.
He said, you're trying to diagnose him. You're not a doctor. That was pretty much what was summed up.
She told him. Again, went to the whole stutter, which was their defense that they tried, and people said, that's not a stutter. Like, I can see where the brain is basically turning off. And do you, it'd be offensive that you are making fun of children with a stutter.
What?
It's as if I was to say, hey, have you noticed Joe's hairline? Like, there's a problem. What, are you making fun of everyone with a weird headline? With a weird hairline with plugs? What are you doing? Everyone in this country who wears a toupee or has plugs must be completely insulted by your line of questioning and that was what he did to try and silence her. It's just name calling. That's all it is.
And then he said, it's a conspiracy theory to say Biden has cognitive decline. It's a stutter. He went back to it, just as Los is saying. He went back to it over and over and over again. Now he wants to sell you a book.
Telling you all about everything he knew and what they did to cover it up.
But he was fine with it then because it lined up with his political beliefs in his political party.
I believe that he might be one of the first people. As we see the shuttering of jobs, MSNBC ended up firing a whole lot of staff when it came to the Rachel Maddow show. Joy Reid is out. There's a transition going on at CNN as well. You're seeing people that are being let go from network news. I believe Jake Tapper decided it's time to jump ship and get paid on the way out. Because he has to see this as the media is ending.
He knows that his days are probably numbered.
Why else would you go and throw that out there
great point.
And capitalize?
That is an absolute great point. You're seeing it across the media, too, as you pointed out. But even this morning, the big story is at the Washington Post that Jeff Bezos is saying we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're not going to focus on the things that we have traditionally, or at least in the last few decades. We're going to focus on free market and personal liberty. And that's going to be the focus of our opinion. That's going to be the focus of our op-ed at the Washington Post. And he talked to the editor about it, and the editor said, I'm not in, and the editor's leaving now. But Bezos is not dumb. He's like, maybe, look, give Jake Tapper credit. He's like, how do I get paid? This is how I get paid. So maybe Bezos is doing the exact same thing.
I believe Bezos he's holding on to one of the properties that is legendary within the news business. When you have the Washington Post, as much as you have, like let's just say, for instance, if I was to say, all right, I have one of the 3 most valuable newspapers in the country. All right, how do I find a way to center this thing?
Or even salvage it.
Or salvage it.
Center it to salvage it.
That would be the goal.
Yeah, it is.
I'm holding on to one of the most valuable news agencies that has existed in this country. How do I salvage and how do I center this thing?
New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post. Those are probably the 3 newspapers. If I had to guess, the ones that still carry and I'm not saying the AJC doesn't make a grip of money, because they do. Do they make what they used to do? No. But that's still a valuable entity. Not New York Times, Washington Post. Not that level. But there's still a lot of money to be made there. I think the AJC would be very wise to do something similar. I don't expect that they will. But they would be so wise to do it.
But we have...
There's a craving for it. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say this. There is the other side that is going to make up the predominant amount of their subscription base. And I think that there is a desire, similar to what we talked about earlier. We talked about how Clay Travis had the information. There are now more Democrats watching Fox News than there are watching CNN and MSNBC. I do believe that there's a desire for the other side to have some idea as to what the other side is thinking.
So
why else would you bring Ben Burnett in to write some articles and to write about his political views? You do that so at least they get a version of what's going on from the other side.
And aren't blindsided the way that Democrats were after the election, because they were convinced Kamala Harris was going to win.
They
were
thought it was in the bag, and it wasn't just a little bit of a beating. It was a landslide beating.
Lost every one of the swing states.
As much as you're going to say, well, it's 51-49. But we're talking about swing states. There's 7 of them, and you lost every one.
The entirety of the government.
Everything gone.
Entirety of the government. They didn't see that coming. They didn't know. Most people on the left didn't know she was not winning. My Aunt Peg had no idea.
She had no clue that's how it was going.
She posted, I remember election night, because we did the election night show with Kimmer, who did a great job, and the Kings, Janelle and Kelvin King, who are wonderful and so insightful, and love having them a part of the Extra family. And I remember seeing late night, my dear Aunt Peg, all she posted was the emoji of a sad face crying. That's what it was. That's all she posted. I knew exactly what it meant. Probably most did.
I should go back and pull that audio just to keep it as like just something to have. In a similar way that we have when Trump first beat Hillary Clinton, we still know on YouTube where to go get that because it's so funny to watch the reaction. When I brought up, and at the time it was early in the night, and I said, guys, look at what's happening in Miami-Dade County in Florida, and how it is going red for the first time in years, and not by a little bit. It was huge how much that county, which is traditionally a Democrat stronghold, flipped for Donald Trump. It been solidly in his corner.
That was the early indicator.
That was the early indicator, and I started talking about how tonight's going to be a great night. And this isn't going to be 2 or 3 days. This is going to be by tonight. We're going to know, maybe a little bit after 11 o'clock?
Yeah, maybe even a little bit before.
Yeah.
To be honest, maybe a little before. And the other county that really told the story was Erie County, Pennsylvania. That was another one that had always been blue. And I was watching MSNBC at the time, and they kept going back to it. And they're like, we're thinking Erie probably going to be okay, but if Erie goes the rest of the way of the rest of the state, this is over. He has won Pennsylvania, and it came down to that point where they knew it, and you could see, and they were coaching themselves through it.
How do we express to our audience what to do? So being that occurred, I think that's why you're seeing the movement, not towards moving right, but trying to bring in a different perspective. So at least that CNN audience gets Scott Jennings. They ain't getting a ton of Scott Jennings. They're not getting it from like 7 other people. They're like, we'll have one.
I would be willing to bet, and I think the people at CNN know it too.
Who's their biggest star, by the way?
Him.
Scott Jennings.
It's him. They don't want it to be him.
No.
They put him out there with 5 other people that are going to eat him up. They do it the same thing on Fox News with the 5, where they put Harold, what's his last name, from Tennessee? He was former representative. His name, you're probably screaming at the radio right now with his name. But Harold Ford Jr., thank you. Who I like. I think he's a good guy. Do I agree with his politics? No. But they put him out there to be eaten by the sharks. That's the whole point on Fox News, that show. The reverse is whatever show it is that Scott Jennings is on, he's supposed to be eaten by the sharks. And unfortunately, or fortunately for CNN, Scott Jennings is owning every person on that show. They can't keep up with him. They can't match his wit. They can't match his intelligence or his experience.
He just punches them in the nose.
Right.
The shark.
And they don't know what to do?
The shark's like, oh my God, I didn't expect to be punched in the nose.
That's right.
The one even last night, and I've got it put aside, and maybe I'll get it over here to Jerry. The one last night, and Scott Jennings ended up, it was tweeted out, and then he ended up retweeting it out and just saying, all I do every night is repeat back what the liberals said within their own words, and then they change their mind and say they didn't say it.
Right.
I mean, we've all had somebody where we just say, you just said this. No, I didn't. No, you just said this.
I just heard
you just said that. No, I didn't. Okay, well, then you're just being emotional, and so you don't understand what you're actually saying. That's what Scott Jennings does on an every night basis to these people.
It's great to see. And like I said, I bet he is the shining star of their ratings because they don't have a lot. But he's good enough, and it's entertaining enough to pull people in. I usually see it on social media when they post. Same way with most of the Fox shows. That's usually where I see everything in bite-sized pieces, much like everybody else. But Scott Jennings, I feel like, is the rock star that they're going to have to build. It's not going to be Jake Tapper because he is a sinking ship. Nobody trusts him. Everything he said is BS. Everything he said then is BS. Everything he says now is covering up the BS that he tried to say then in this new book called Original Sin. Scott Jennings, if they were to build the network around Scott Jennings, they would win. I think the CNN brand is still healthy. I still think it has value to people. Now, when they go there and they see the nonsense, they don't stay. And it's clear by the ratings they don't do that. But I do believe that CNN as a brand is strong enough. If they were to do it right, I don't bet they will. If they were to do it right and build around him, they could win.
The reason why Joy Reid doesn't have a job, it's not because she's a black woman in America sharing opinions. That's not it. It's not because she happens to be critical of the president. That's not it, because other shows do that and they do well. The reason why she doesn't have a job is because she had 49,000 viewers on a primetime show.
All right.
49,000 viewers.
Her show has value.
On a national platform on an evening show.
That's what she said. My show has value.
All right, we're talking like you've got to be closer to 2 million. Like if you're a big show, you're 2 million. If you're living in the right area, it's 1 million. 49,000. All right? That's why that woman got fired. CNN has that same issue. It's how far do you have to kill your ratings in order to recognize that maybe you're going in the wrong direction with the rest of the country. Sure. That the temperature of what you're talking about is way too out there.
Interesting you bring that up because 2 million, that's where it has to be to exist.
Justify what you're doing in network television.
And what you're getting paid. Just a quick search, Google search, top cable shows by viewership. The 5, which I just brought up, Harold Ford Jr. is part of it, 4.7 million viewers. It now beats the CBS Evening News. Jesse Watters Primetime, 4 million views. Tops cable news in the demo. Gutfeld, interestingly enough, which is what, 10?
It's a late night show.
10, is it 10 o'clock?
10 or 11 o'clock, yeah.
Somewhere in there. I don't get to watch it. I've never seen an episode of Gutfeld. I see lots of clips. I've never seen an episode. But 3.4 million. And remember when he was later.
Yeah.
Because he's entertaining.
He would
funny,
do the late night, the overnight.
And he was beating all the network shows.
All the network comedy shows.
He was beating them all.
Yeah, Tonight Show.
Good content.
Jimmy Kimmel, all of them.
Good content. That's what people are looking for. And you've always said it, Los, and I agree with it. If you put out good content, people will find it. They'll look for it because they'll be told by, hey, did you hear about this Gutfeld guy? You hear about the morning show and Extra? It's great. Or the afternoon show. Kimmer, hey, he's back. It's great.
It's why we have people that will call into this radio station or listen from Alabama, Canada, Florida. They were looking for this. And the cool part is we've delivered and told you how things were going to go. And when it did, that created that solidarity with this audience that we are going to do the work so that when we tell you something's going to happen, we feel pretty certain it's going to happen.
Can I share with you that I did mornings for around 10 years on 101.5 here in town. 100,000 watts, the biggest stick you can have.
Yeah, 100,000 watt Class C. Yeah. Basically, if you're at night and you're 50 miles out, you can still hear it.
That's right. I never had anybody reach out from Canada. Never anybody from Alabama. And I did it for 10 years. I know it's different now. People can listen on the app. It's whatever. It's easier and more accessible. But you would think with a radio station that size, you would have somebody that says, man, I can't wait to come into Atlanta so we can listen to you or whatever. Never happened.
But that's why the content is changing at these places. To bring it back to just talking about what's going on with Bezos and the Washington Post and what we're seeing at the AJC and how these networks have to start creating better content. That doesn't mean angrier debates. It means smarter debates, more balanced debates.
But I think that's the mistake a lot of them will make. It's how do I get the flamethrower guy that's just going to say anything and get attention? He might not make any sense. Well, like the Stephen A. Smith type, but I actually give Stephen A. credit. A lot of times his arguments, I think, are pretty sound.
Well, for instance, you had somebody who was on CNN last night, and they were debating with Scott Jennings. And the person talked about how, well, the president, and he'll be able to do this or that with the military. And I can go and find the audio. But basically, he was creating these hypotheticals.
Like attacking a country or something?
No, as in like, well, what happens, as he could take control of the military.
He already has control of the military. What?
And that was Jennings' point. He's like, he's the commander-in-chief. Like, that he's in charge of the military, right? And the person has like this blank look on their face of, oh my God. It's like, were you talking in front of your brain, or did you just not know that the commander-in-chief is in control of the military?
Right.
From the founding of the country, from the Constitution on, the chief executive, the president, has control of the military.
I have to give people the benefit of the doubt. He got out in front of his, out over his skis and just said it. It didn't make any sense. And look, we've all done it here and there or whatever. You say something you don't mean. Because there's no way that you don't know that. It's impossible for you to not know that. I could call my mama, who knows nothing about the military, has never been in the military. No, or anybody. I could call Aunt Peg.
Mama, Peg.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of the military?
And both of them would answer the president. I have no doubts in my entire mind. So there's no chance that person did not know. It's no chance.
But CNN felt comfortable putting somebody on the air that said something along those lines.
Yeah, right.
And did not know. And then looked around like, oh my God, somebody
bail me out.
Somebody come save me.
Bail me.
I've jumped in the lion's cage and it's got me by the leg.
Oh, man. It's so nuts.
Oh, and by the way, and this is more of a personal story sort of thing. Kat Timpf.
Oh, yeah.
First off.
Sad story.
You know what? But a good story in that it looks like this is going to work out well for her. If you know her from watching Gutfeld, she's one of the comedians, very funny lady. So she just gave birth to a son, and they found breast cancer. So, as she put it, my son has saved my life amid stage 0. So they believe they'll be able to treat it, they'll be able to take care of it. She's going to be fine.
I never even heard of stage 0 before.
But that's when again, it's there, but it hasn't spread anywhere. And so, fortunately for her, as she put it, she's like, my maternity leave is going to be a little bit different because I'll be being treated for cancer. But that is a really cool story that she'll always be able to say, like, the birth of my son was probably the reason this got caught so early and saved my life.
It's unreal, man.
So just, good thoughts for Kat Timpf.
Without a doubt. You sent Jure the cut, because I got to hear this guy. If you send it to him.
Yes, I did send it to him. Yeah, we can get into it next segment if you want. It's funny.
Not knowing that the president is the commander-in-chief of the military, I have to hear it, because I've not. And maybe you haven't either. 9 o'clock hour is brought to you by Southern Exteriors. These folks I have heard of. They're like a boy band. Lowe's and I make fun of them a little bit because it's Lance and Noah and Bradley and Jason and Mike, and they all have distinct personalities. But the point is that they do good work, and they can take care of the exterior of your home. Whatever you need done, roof, siding, windows, doors, gutters, they can do it all, and they'll give you 0% financing right now or 10% off any job. It's up to you, whatever fits your job the best. SouthernExteriors.co. SouthernExteriors.co is the website. When we continue, we'll talk about the dude that didn't know the president's in charge of the military, and then J.D. Vance is a badass. There's one of many reasons that I'll share with you next. The Kimmer Show is only on Xtra 106.3 every weekday afternoon on your drive home.
Rebecca, hi. Welcome aboard. What's going on?
You know what?
what? First of all, I'm so excited you're back on the air because you make me happy.
Well,
you make me laugh.
Well, I'm not sure that sounds like me half the time, but you're very sweet. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Atlanta Braves single-game tickets for the 2025 season are on sale. And not only can fans look forward to some incredible matchups this season, but the Braves have a ton of unique and exciting giveaways that everyone will want to get their hands on. Bobbleheads feature Chris Sale and Marcelo Zuna, presented by Delta. A throwback bobblehead featuring Chipper Jones from the 2000 All-Star Game, presented by SeatGeek, and many more. Fans can also look forward to collectibles like the 1995 World Series replica ring and red home jersey presented by Coke. And we can't forget about the kiddos. Every Sunday home game, the Braves will give away items to the first 3,000 kids through the gates. Even the adults will want some of these items, which include the Blooper Mascot Security T-shirt, Ozzy Albies Go Fish deck of cards presented by Curacao, a New Island vibe, a sliding mitt, pool float, beaded player necklace, and so much more. Visit Braves.com/promos to see all of these awesome freebies and get your tickets to see your Braves this season. Atlanta Braves baseball. We are Braves country.
Advisory services offered through Master Plan Retirement Consultants, Inc., a registered investment advisory in the state of Georgia. Insurance, tax, and commodity services offered through Fricks & Associates, Inc., DBA Master Plan Retirement Consultants. The aforementioned are affiliated companies.
Retirement means different things to different people. Some folks want to travel the world. Some folks want to spend more time with grandkids. For me, I'm looking forward to spending more time with my guitar. Whether extravagant and robust or simple and cozy, every retirement needs a plan. You wouldn't take a trip without directions. You have to know where you are before you know where you're going. Master Plan Retirement Consultants have helped many like you plan for their own retirement. Not only does Master Plan help you create the roadmap, they join you on the journey. So whether you want to travel the world, become a pickleball champ, or just looking for a good porch, a sturdy rocking chair, and an acoustic guitar, remember to plan well because the destination is worth it. Visit masterplanretire.com to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Find your perfect Ford today at Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs. Home to one of Atlanta's largest selections of new and used vehicles. They're just 4 miles north of 285 on Roswell Road.
Stop by today to explore their incredible inventory of cars, trucks, and SUVs, each thoroughly vetted to meet the highest standards.
Looking for power and performance? Drive home a legendary Mustang or conquer the great outdoors in the rugged Bronco.
Need family-friendly space? The Explorer and Expedition have you covered. Or experience the capability and strength of America's best-selling truck, the F-150.
And when it's time to finance, their straightforward, hassle-free process ensures your experience is stress-free.
With access to numerous lenders and expert guidance, they'll help you find the best rates and terms to fit your budget.
Which Ford will you drive home next? Find out at Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs, or visit them online at jimellisford.com.
Your Ford dreams are waiting. Make them a reality today at Atlanta's favorite Ford dealer, Jim Ellis Ford, Sandy Springs.
Hey, homeowners, it's Flounder, and I'm here to keep you warm. Well, I won't, but my friends at Dobbs Heating and Air will. As a new homeowner myself, I prefer working with local, family-owned companies who value what matters to me and treats my home like it's their own. The Dobbs family have a passion for what they do, and taking care of people is their primary goal. So if your home needs help staying warm right now, call Dobbs Heating and Air and experience the Dobbs difference. And check them out online at dobbshvac.com.
My USPS Ground Advantage package just left the warehouse. I get all the updates. Stay in the know with USPS Ground Advantage service. Visit USPS.com/in-the-know.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for Thursday, February 27th. Atlanta police said Wednesday the shooting deaths of two 13-year-old boys last summer may be linked to gang violence related to Atlanta-based rapper Lil Baby. 7 arrests have been made so far. Major Ralph Woolfolk with APD's Violent Crime Interdiction section said his team will work to hold the rapper accountable. A $50,000 reward is being offered for more information. The Georgia State Senate passed a bill Wednesday to increase penalties for possession of the deadly drug fentanyl. If passed into law, anyone found with at least 4 grams of the drug will face a minimum of 10 years in prison. The bill now goes to the House. A 3-month-old baby girl is okay after being rescued from a burning apartment on Tuesday. A Barrow County Sheriff's deputy pulled the child to safety and she was airlifted to Grady. She has been discharged and no other injuries were reported. Temperatures today reach the high 60s with a mostly sunny and pleasant weekend on the way. With your headlines, I'm Jerry Payne.
9 o'clock hour brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your home exterior solution since 1999. They'll give you 10% off any job, windows, doors, siding, roofing. You need to build a deck, they can do it. If you screen in a deck, they can do it. Whatever you need done to the exterior of your home, they can do it. So 0% financing for 12 months or 10% off any job, southernexteriors.co, southernexteriors.co. Where do you want to begin? Do we want to begin with J.D. Vance as a badass or the dumbass on CNN?
Let's do it real quick. So this is Torre. He's a writer.
Who?
Torre.
Oh, let me look up Torre. I don't think I know him.
Yeah, he's Torre. It's a guy who he attended Emory, but then ended up dropping out at one point. But he's done all the networks. He's MSNBC, CNN. He currently has a blog, and this is what he does. He's a prolific writer.
Okay. I don't watch enough CNN. Clearly, I don't watch enough CNN.
So this is the conversation. The conversation, and we cut it to it's about 90 seconds worth. He is going down a road where he's talking about essentially Donald Trump is going to take over the military and he'll assign somebody to run it for him. And this is what's going to happen. And Scott Jennings looks like he grows a second head. Like there's something points out next to him. It's like, what? To go along with him just being dumbfounded. Take a listen.
The FBI, now we're in control of the military, silencing media. This is what you do in a dictatorship.
Are you suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I'm suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. When we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
This is important conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm letting you have it. Yeah, I mean, I think it is important because there is this perception that Trump does want to push the boundaries of what is in his constitutional
All right, so that's basically, she's now trying to spin it. Toure was trying to make the point that he's going to take over the military. And Scott Jennings like, he is the commander-in-chief.
He's got the military already. If he wanted to do something unconstitutional with the military, he'll
seize control of the military.
He could give the order to do it right now because he has charge of the military. Of course, he's not going to do that. And there's so many fail-safes with generals that can say, Mr. President, let's think about this.
Did you hear how Toure suddenly said nothing?
Nothing. He got real
hold
quiet.
on a second. Like, this is no longer just you spouting out your rhetoric, and as he finishes up, you can hear him when he's talking about, and then gaslighting, so now he's going through every checklist he can.
Anything he can to deflect.
And Scott Jennings cuts right through it and says, do you not know that he's in charge of the military? He's commander-in-chief? And that's the dead silence. That's the dead silence.
That's right.
It was,
oh, my heavens.
You're throwing out basic tenets of the Constitution to these people, and what happens? They go quiet. So there you go. That was the fun from last night.
But it's funny because this goes right along, this dovetails with the whole J.D. Vance thing and the fact that J.D. Vance is a badass. His statement nails it as far as the media's canned response, like you're talking about, those checklists. You go from one to the other, making sure that you make every argument because you really have nothing. Listen to what J.D. Vance talks about when it comes to Donald Trump.
NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started. And I think, J.D., we can say that. Do you have a statement on that? You've been very much involved.
Listen to this. This is so good.
Great. Gave me the hardest question, sir. I mean, look, as the president said, we're not going to do the negotiation in public with the American media. He's going to do it in private with the president of Russia, with the president of Ukraine, and with other leaders. And I think that's how this has to go. I just want to push back against some of the criticism I've seen of the administration on this, because every single time the president engages in diplomacy, you guys preemptively accuse him of conceding to Russia. He hasn't conceded anything to anyone. He's doing the job of a diplomat. And he is, of course, the diplomat-in-chief as the President of the United States.
J.D. Vance is such a badass for that statement alone, because that's all the media has said. That's all you see on social media. That's all you see on NBC and MSNBC across the board is he's giving in to Trump because he's in, or Putin. He's in Putin's back pocket. They're in cahoots together. J.D. Vance quickly points out he's not conceded anything to anyone. He's being a diplomat. And that's what I want him to be. I want him to broker the best deal to stop the killing, first of all. And then secondly, I want it to be good for the United States. That's where we live. We need it to be good for us.
Here's how important we are when we are strong as a country. You have the Ukrainians, and they're going to sign the deal as far as Zelensky when he shows up, where they're going to give up 50% of the profits from their mineral rights. That's what they're doing. At the same time, you do have Putin and the Russians asking for our help in developing their mineral rights situation because they've got a ton of it. They've got a ton of reserves of it. And they're talking about a partnership, in which case we get a percentage. In order to strengthen our relationship, we're involved in something together. So what you have are two countries that have been at war with each other that are both asking to be business partners with us.
And look what that does, Los, when you say that. Look what that does to the relationship between Russia and China. That pushes a wedge between the Chinese hate the Americans. The Chinese want to be the global superpower. They have been partnering with Russia because Russia has such an adversarial relationship right now with the United States.
With the Biden administration, for sure.
Exactly. And if you're Donald Trump and you can negotiate this and you can drive a wedge between your greatest enemy in China and actually have a workable relationship, I don't care that they're not best friends. But if you have a workable relationship with Russia, that changes the entire dynamic of the entire globe in the favor of the United States.
When this deal gets done between the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the Americans who are leading the charge on this, here's what you're going to get. You're going to ask this question. This deal has been on the table since 2014 into 2016 and was even available 2 years ago. And the only reason it never got done is because the Biden administration believed that they could bleed Putin.
And they wanted regime change. That was the stated goal.
And they wanted to bleed the Russians and thought, as long as we keep sending more Ukrainians into the meat grinder and forcing Zelensky to do so, that's going to be advantageous to us and profitable to us.
Yeah.
And it'll damage the Russians. We have given up so much money in this thing that at least now we're saying, okay, good, let's end it and know that the real warmongers in this entire thing was the Biden administration.
And Democrats.
They were the ones who set this thing off.
Democrats.
When Donald Trump says the Ukrainians started it, he's not talking about the offensive.
Obviously, that's because the Russian tanks rolled in. Everyone knows that.
We're talking about what occurred in 2014 and 2016 where the CIA supported a coup in order to make sure that there was a government that was anti-Russian. We're the ones, through USAID, that created this scenario. So when we say the Ukrainians caused this, it's because the Ukrainians created an atmosphere politically in which the Russians said, if this is how they're going to be, we're striking at them.
That's right. And the other thing was the whole NATO thing.
We're going to go to NATO. That was the red line. Think about this. We promised the Russians since the 1940s that we would not expand NATO as it grew as an organization. And what did we do? We kept expanding. And the Russians, albeit you can say what you want to, they're evil Ruskies, they're bad people, all right, whatever. They're the ones who defeated the Germans during World War II, and they gave up millions and millions and millions of lives to do so. I'm not saying that absolves them of anything, but what I'm pointing out is this. The Russians are incredibly critical of their defense because whether it's been Napoleon or whether it's been Hitler, they know that people look to come into their country and take their resources. That's been their history.
Because they're incredibly resourceful. There's so much.
So when they're worried about NATO and they're worried about Ukraine,
they have a good
history to be.
They have a good reason to be. And that's not to pretend that Ukraine is the good guy in this. Because I don't want people to think that I think Ukraine's a good guy, because I don't.
No, it's possible to have war between bad and bad people.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly what it is. And anybody that tells you otherwise is either misleading you or naive to the fact they don't know what's going on or what historically has happened.
Like, I think about 30 years ago when you had war in Rwanda, and it was the Tutsis and the Hutus, and it was ethnic cleansing on both sides. There wasn't a right side in that. It was just bodies floating down the river. It was awful. Oh, you have a scenario where you've had trench warfare between the Ukrainians and the Russians for the better part of 2 years with the lines not changing. Then all we've seen is it's a meat grinder.
That's it.
To kill more and more people. And we have profiteered off that. We're looking to end it. So I'm with J.D. Vance. Mm-hmm. We're not giving up anything to anybody. This is going to be advantageous for us by the time it's all over with.
And the death stops, which is Donald Trump said that was his first stated goal. I want to see people stop dying.
Yeah.
Anybody, I don't know how you argue that. It doesn't matter. And that's the other thing. We deal with people that we don't agree with all the time. The president has to deal with people he doesn't agree with all the time. Would you, rather have at least a rapport, a relationship that you can reach out and say, hey, man, we need to discuss this? Or do you want it to be all-out war is the only time that there is even a discussion? I would rather have it the first way.
When we end up being...
And that's not defending Russia. Please don't read that.
No, when we end up facilitating peace in Ukraine and with the Russians. So that's going to be one deal. We'll see what happens in Israel and dealing with Hamas and everything else. But you know what the next thing you're going to see Donald Trump do? He's going to reach out to the Chinese, and we're going to find some sort of solution where Taiwan is not going to be threatened. And how crazy do you think the left is going to go when they're like, look at him.
He's dealing
making
with the
friends
Chinese?
with dictators and everyone around the world. It's because this is how you deal with them. That man had me up back when I worked an afternoon drive. I could do this. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch him go to North Korea and go meet with them and have meetings and walk out in front of the American media and say, you know what? He's going to stop firing rockets. And sure enough, he stopped firing rockets.
And he did. That's why I think what J.D. Vance said was so valuable. And I think most people just brushed over it. When he said he's being a diplomat. What do diplomats do? That's exactly what he's doing. And I love the fact that he pointed out the media loves to say, he's conceding. What has he conceded?
What have we given away?
404-741-1230 if you can tell me what he's conceded, because I don't know of anything. J.D. Vance has nailed it. And that's why he's going to be, when he's president.
When he has his opportunity.
When he's president.
What are you going to say about that redneck hillbilly with the Ivy League education?
God bless him.
He's as smooth as it gets. What are you going to say about him when he is now the future? And by the way, and I'm glad everyone has adopted this. I know Kimmer looked at it and he's like, yeah, they're right. He's way more conservative than Donald Trump.
100%. There's
no luck dealing with him.
There's no arguing it. Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. I don't know that J.D. Vance has ever been anything but a conservative at all. I know nothing else. The only rub you could say was when he talked bad about Donald Trump and they worked through it. There's been plenty of people that I had a bad opinion of, meet them, work with them, and my opinion changes.
Diplomacy.
Back to the whole point, the word that he used.
Diplomacy.
He's not given up anything.
This is the art of the deal.
You should be proud of what's happening in the United States. And I think most people probably listen to this station or are. My English is not all that great. I'm a dumb hillbilly, too. I'm not an Ivy League educated hillbilly.
Ron Howard did not make a movie about me.
I'm a 3-time college dropout. I'm never the smartest guy in the room and never the dumbest guy in the room. I just, am average at best. But you should be, and I believe that you are proud of your country. And you should be, and you should always want to be. You're not cheering against your country, even when Biden was on. We talked about this just a couple hours ago now. How the Democrats right now are praying for a recession. Can you imagine being in the place where you hope the worst happens to your countrymen, the worst happens to the United States of America to satisfy your political goals?
I wonder if we can thread this needle, because we've all talked about the pain that is coming, that we have been on a sugar high, that we have been...
With the economy is where we're going in.
Yes, and we've been hiring federal workers in order to make the economy look stronger than it actually is, and that because we keep sucking dollar after dollar out of the private sector, that eventually this is going to be problematic. The rent will come due on all of this. Donald Trump and what they're trying to pull off is trying to restore the economy back to basically a 2016 to 2019 level while also avoiding that economic slowdown. And so when you hear, it's a lot. This is threading a needle here. When you hear him talk about creating that gold card, and that as of now, I think they've said they've had like 250,000 respondents that say they would spend the $5 million in order to have immediate gold card access to this country. These are thinking. This is a way of thinking outside the box. You have to.
Can I give you another example that I read last night? It's when they said, and I forget who in the cabinet said it, so forgive me. But they were talking about doing the census, and they have to hire 650,000 people, and it costs so many $1 billion to get it done. He was like, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we just use our post office? They go to everybody's house every day. Why wouldn't you use the 600,000
The
plus
existing staff
especially if you're going to make it efficient, especially if your stated goal, which they've said we've got to fix this. This is unacceptable. It's undoable. It's inefficient. It's all the things that we know about it. If you can get it fixed and then use it to benefit you too, to take the job of another agency in counting the census, that's out of the box thinking. That's never even crossed my mind, and it should be so obvious.
We're back in the ideas business. That's what happens when you have talented people who think outside the box. They come up with different solutions in a different way.
You know how I know that that's the case? Because Apple said, I'm willing to spend $500 billion in the United States. They're not making decisions based on whims.
No, ingenuity is back.
Eli Lilly doing the same thing. They said they're going to, I think it's $27 billion that they're going to invest here in the United States. They're rerouting money that was going to be built somewhere else and used somewhere else and put in some other country's economy. Now it's going to be put in ours. We're back, like Lo said, we're back in the idea business, and I say the bigger the idea, the better, because I would rather it be huge and let's pare it down to something that's doable than starting with something that is not even going to move the needle and then going smaller from there, and that's what we've had in the past. Morning Extra and Extra 106.3, we will wrap up the show next, and the walls come tumbling down like John Cougar Mellencamp used to sing on Fonnie Willis. We'll talk about that and maybe get a smile before we wrap up the show and turn it over to the Glenn Beck program.
The latest sports news, powered by 680 The Fan, and driven to extra listeners by RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Here are your sports headlines for Thursday, February 27th. The Atlanta Hawks, they dropped their matchup in Miami last night, 131-109, as the Miami Heat took a halftime tie and blew out the Hawks in the third quarter. The Hawks now fall back to 9th in the Eastern Conference standings. So in the NFL, the potential number one overall pick in the draft in the upcoming draft is mulling surgery on his foot. Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has a stress reaction that could put him out for 8 weeks. The NFL scouting combine continues today from Indianapolis. And from spring training, the Braves will be in action this evening from Palm Beach against the Washington Nationals. That'll be a 6:05 start time. You can hear all the action on our sister station app, 680 The Fan.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Atlanta? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Atlanta for free. That's right. We'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. Atlanta is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop this week right here in Atlanta and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
Why does it matter that D. Geller & Son is Atlanta's first diamond wholesaler? Because we get first dibs. When diamonds come to Atlanta, they come to D. Geller & Son first. A bunch of diamonds that look the same on paper, but there's about 1 in every 10 that you can see from across the room, and a lot in every 10 that are what my dad calls duds. So we keep the good one, we pack the rest back up, and they go somewhere else. That somewhere else is usually a big box store that's not quite as picky. That means the same color, same clarity, and same price gets you more brilliance, more sparkle, more bang for your diamond buck at D. Geller & Son. That's what we call the D. Geller difference. So why are we so picky? We live, work, and play right here in Atlanta. So when it comes to getting you the best diamond, we have to get it right. That's why Atlanta's first diamond wholesaler became Atlanta's favorite diamond retailer. Come see the D. Geller & Son difference for yourself and find out why we've been Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939. In Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
A musician with technical knowledge can play all the right notes. But one who cares enough to play from the heart gives music soul. At Truist, we believe the same is true for banking. Because when you work with someone who knows a lot and cares even more, you're unstoppable. Truist, leaders in banking, unwavering in care. Start feeling unstoppable. Visit truist.com/care. Truist Bank, member FDIC, leading based on top 10 U.S. commercial bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Lalamia, owner of the Trusted Toolbox. Got a to-do list a mile long? No problem. We've got the ultimate solution, our Handyman for a Day program. Here's how it works. You get a skilled handyman dedicated to knocking out your honey-do list. Paint touch-ups, drywall repairs, door adjustments, and much more, all done in one day. You want to jump into spring and not worry about your home? Call us now before the rush for your Handyman for a Day and call us at 770-623-3097 or visit us at thetrustedtoolbox.com. One call, one handyman, one day. The Trusted Toolbox.
Love having a true conservative news and talk station in Atlanta? Then spread the word. Tell your family and friends to download the Extra 106.3 app and stream the Morning Extra, The Kimmer Show, and Atlanta's biggest lineup of conservative voices.
Man, just hanging out, sipping on a free bird, and chilling with Front Office Los here on the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3 on the air until 10.
That's right.
Glad that you're here.
You have a very limited amount of time. You need to cherish this.
That's exactly right. And if you've not heard about Freebird, I'll show it to the people that are on
Freebird.
Yeah, play some Freebird.
Play some Freebird.
Play some Gator Man. It's it's just water. It's spring water, southern spring water. It's kind of like that thing you see at concerts, Liquid Death.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as that. However, what makes it better, what separates it, is this all comes from springs up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Count me in.
And you don't have to sell your soul.
You have to sell your soul?
That's printed on every can. And call me crazy, but I don't want to put anything like that in writing.
Oh, are you serious? That's on Liquid Death? Sell your soul? I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. To be honest, I guess I've had one or two, just people over the years buy them for me. I've never bought one myself that I remember. But now that I know that's on there, I'd rather just stay drunk. You know what I mean? When you're at a concert, you're like, I need a water. And they have me one that says, sell your soul. I'll be like, give me another liquor drink. I'd rather stay liquored up.
Give me some brown water instead.
That's exactly.
I'm going to throw up. Don't change this.
That's right. I'm on a clear path. Can't you see what's coming next?
I need fries.
That's right. Yeah. So, well, let me tell you.
Does Jerry, you aware of the fries incident?
No, sir.
So this was 2 years ago. Where Tug Coward had attended a concert with his lovely wife, and she was driving them home. Okay. She was a sober one. Tug was not. And he sent me a video message. I'd just gone to Florida for a vacation, and it pops up on my phone like 9 o'clock. I was like, I'll check it tomorrow morning. Sure enough, it's Tug in the drive-thru, and he's explaining how we're in the drive-thru right now. We're going to get some fries.
I'm like, Lowe's.
What concert was it?
I can't remember. I mean,
that good.
Yeah, it was that. Yeah, well, I think I was that bad.
It was very entertaining just to hear him tell you, like, oh, what's up? We're getting some fries. And I was like, yes, my man did it right. Did it right.
And that's usually now, when Lowe's and I go back and forth, that's usually the marker of what the evening is like.
Yes.
Like, if you've gotten to fries, things have gone either really well or really bad, depending on how you feel about it.
In fact, I think it was several weeks ago where, I was over at a team function with some of the parents, and we were putting away some, and you were putting away some, and all you get is like text messages back for fries.
Yeah,
like are y'all at that point? Are you doing for fries tonight?
Where are you in the process? So yes, that's a good night, and usually when you're having one of those nights, you need to follow it up with water, but no longer
like
Liquid Death.
Freebird.
Yeah, Freebird. Play some Skinner, man. Freebird, based out of I think it's an Atlanta company, but they get all the water that goes in the cans from Blue Ridge, Georgia, which does my heart a world of good, because anything out of Blue Ridge is good, if you ask me. I love Blue Ridge. I would love to have a house. Like you have a house at the beach.
Yeah, Blue Ridge
I would love to have one up in the mountains up there somewhere.
Pretty area.
Yeah, it is. Gosh, that's good living there. That's good living. The walls are closing in on Fonnie Willis. We talked to Ray Giudice earlier about, and I'm so glad that he explained some of the things, Los, like the in-camera part of this hearing that's happening tomorrow at 4 down at Fulton County Courthouse. And it's Judge McBurney's going to decide either A, I'm going to appoint a special master, which is an ad litem, basically going to go through all the paperwork, work with everybody to compile the evidence that has not been turned over or said that they can't find. So the special master will go look for it and hopefully uncover it. And so you have that with Fonnie Willis, which is probably not good for her. That's the reason she's been so evasive and not showing up in front of the Georgia State Senate, which now has also, that subpoena to have her not have to testify in front of the Georgia State Senate has been squashed. She must do it. And I think the walls, as we know with every one of these Trump trials, are closing in on all of these clowns.
When all of this started to fall apart, when you had the Supreme Court find that unless a president did something that was illegal during their time in office, that you can't go after them in this way. It would the precedent would be awful. And so by the time that occurs, that takes so much of their cases that were very questionable from a legal standpoint to start with. A president contacted the state of Georgia and started asking about some of the issues that we had with voting. That then created a RICO case. All right, good luck making that happen. Fani Willis is the last person at the dance. Everyone else has jumped ship, gotten away from this.
Including Jack Smith, who she was meeting at the White House, allegedly.
Washed their hands of it. Fani Willis is the last person at the dance. She's the one. We talked about it. She was going to get caught holding the bag. She's holding the bag. And now she's going to have to get in front of the state Senate.
In 2 places. But that.
Yeah.
But then when Ray explained with the in-camera thing, which made no sense to me, it's the legal jargon that I didn't understand. He just says when all the evidence comes to him, he's going to look at it and disseminate it in his chambers. He's going to read it and come up with his own opinion. Do I need to have somebody go in and find all of this paperwork that they're saying, and email and all the communications that they're saying, well, we can't find? I'll have to find somebody that can go in and find it, whether someone that's a whiz at technology like an Elon Musk maybe, or a team of people. Ray said it would probably be a lawyer, but you're going to have a crack lawyer to do it, I'm sure.
As much as that interests me, I'm really much more excited about testifying in front of the state Senate.
Right.
That's the one where, are you going to plead the fifth? Like, are you going to say that there's possible illegality?
Because if there weren't, you wouldn't be pleading the fifth.
Right.
So what are you trying to keep from incriminating yourself? That's the whole point.
As Ray Giudice pointed out, there are opportunities for better answers. Your answers weren't good enough the last time you were on the stand. There's opportunities for better answers, and that we'll see.
Yeah. Is it terrible that I'm not going to pull? Yes, I am. I'm just to be honest.
Okay.
It drives me up the wall that people get away with this crap, and it doesn't matter if it's our side or their side. You and I wouldn't be able to get away with this. This woman has basically told the Georgia State Senate, I'm not sitting down with you. I'm not going to do it. And then tries to go to court to have it overturned. We wouldn't be able to do that. We would never have that ability. If they called us down in front of them, we would go and do what we had to do. She's been able to evade because of the status that she has, which is so anti-American to begin with.
Let me tell you why. If you're going out to lunch today and you're going to have a drink, give a little cheers to Fani Willis. She got Donald Trump elected.
She did.
She was a big part of it.
That's right.
That's
such a great point of view.
What hangs in the Oval Office?
The picture of the mugshot that she...
From Fulton County.
That she pushed for.
Here's the Fulton County mugshot of Donald Trump, which hangs in the Oval Office. When you enter the office, the first thing you see is his mugshot.
It's on the left as you're walking in, about shoulder height.
That Fani Willis made sure occurred. That was going to be her victory. That was her victory dance. I got him. Look, I got the mugshot. Now you're going to look at him as a criminal. No, you looked at him winning 7 swing states and now being president again. And for everyone who walks out of the Oval Office, they're reminded of what you pulled off, Fani. Thank you, Fani Willis.
You are kinder than we knew. You
did a great job.
You're more helpful than we knew.
What a Trojan horse. Who knew?
That was going to be what sunk the ship because they thought that was going to be the death nail. We got him. And then it ended up on T-shirts and conservative dads. That's right.
Thank you, Fani Willis. Cheers to you, ma'am.
You did well. Thank you, ma'am. That'll do it for us. We're going to turn this thing over to the Glenn Beck program. After Beck is done at 10, listen to Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. 500 radio stations is how many that they're on. That's the demand for that show that you only get on Xtra 106.3. And then the afternoon show with the Kimber Pete and Flounder, the legendary voice of Kim, the Kimber Peterson, only heard on Xtra 106.3. For board, I almost called you Go Virgin River because I'm such a habit to do that, Jeray.
Jeray.
Let me do that.
We're going to have words after this.
Jeray.
Just kidding. Love Joey.
No, he's a good dude. And Front Office Los, I'm Tug. Y'all come back now, you hear?
And I won't back down. Well, I know what's right.
Stream Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, Glenn Beck, Fox News, and even NASCAR on Sundays, anywhere on the Extra 106.3 app. Download the app now and get 24/7 access to the live stream, the latest news, and everything you need to know about Atlanta's only conservative talk station. Download the Extra 106.3 app for Apple or Android and check out even more great original content at thepodcastpark.com.